Yes, that's what it's doing.
Hmm.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Loss of Lieutenant. I'm your host, Jacob, and I'm joined by my fellow host.
Val,
It's good to
how
see
we
your face.
doing?
Yeah, it's good to see your face, Val.
Yes, yes,
It's
we've got our
been
cameras on.
it's been a minute.
Has actually.
So for this episode, we will be doing a BCB mission review. So we'll be taking a look
Ah,
at the missions in BCB, um, going through each of them. We're not looking at spending a huge amount of time on like getting down to the missions, but more talking about how the missions form, how we would approach going to BCB, so list building and that sort of thing. We'll cover the missions. We'll give our thoughts on the missions themselves, but we're going to try and move as quickly as we can into sort of more holistic talk about the missions. But just before we get into um, our normal catch up, I just wanted to cover something that's pretty exciting. So, as some of our listeners may have watched or heard, we were lucky enough to get from Corvus Belli an early sample of the Marut and the Aya in their new plastic resin. I did a video putting it together, showing how like sort of it cleans up, which I'll reiterate here, much better than the Cyocast. It's pretty much it feels like it acts it's almost like metal as far as cleaning it up. And we decided that instead of holding a death match between the three of us for who's going to keep the models, we would give back to the patrons that have helped us keep this show going as well as it has, and give back to our community. So we got them painted up. The Aya was painted up by Danny Paints, and the Marut was painted up by Wendigo Wet Palette, two professional painters, model painters here in Melbourne or in Victoria. So at the very end of this episode, we're going to rifle it off to our patrons. So stay tuned for that lucky winner.
that's right. Yeah, so Aiden and Danny both have Instagram. So we've shared on our socials and on Discord. They're basically their details. So if you want to give them a follow on
Yeah,
Instagram, they paint a range of models, GW, Lord of the Rings, Infinity, whatever you like.
yeah.
So yeah, they're really great guys.
Yeah, and if you want to see the models, we'll put up after the raffle some of the more like the videos and stuff we were sent. But we've put up sort of the four views of them up on our Discord, up on our Facebook. So if you want to go and see them, go and visit our Facebook page at Lost Lieutenant. Um, and yeah, they both did a really good job. We were just talking pre-show. Danny does this technique of stippling, which is where you sort of stab at the paint, the at the model, and it's with the ultimate technique of looks like garbage until you start getting to the end, and then it just comes together. It's like it just
Awesome.
it's all it's at one point, and then it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you both to our painter Danny Paints and Wendigo Wet Palette. Look them up on Instagram if you're looking for some really good painters to paint up that centerpiece model in your army. Hit them up. Uh,
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah.
But with that, we'll do the draw later in this episode. But with that, let's do a bit of a catch up, Val. I haven't heard too much about your games. What have you been up to?
So I had been up to a couple of things. I think I had a game. My third round game was with Aaron. So we're running the as part of the league here in Melbourne that Kev's running. My third game for the league was against Aaron, one of the new players, relatively new players in Melbourne. He was running Cosmoflot and into my attack, and we were playing Armory. And I thought,
Ooh,
oh yeah,
it's an
yeah,
interesting
I thought
matchup.
yeah, it was until he brought the most disgusting five-man link I've ever seen. He had Caden First Strike, Patcher with Breast 4, effectively Breast 4 Vulcan shotguns,
Oh,
a Varangian for smoke, Unknown Ranger with AP Spitfire, and then some Doctor, Stranok Doctor, or whatever.
yeah, the
And I'm like,
Stranic Doctor. Yeah.
Stranok, yeah, man, that was such a cool link. And yeah, we
Mm.
had a really good game actually. Yeah, lots of interesting gunfights and back and forth. But yeah, Aaron got up on me in that one. He pushed me out of the room. I had some of the tractor mules surrounding the room, some mines. I had some dog warriors in there. But when that 5-man link came through, it came through.
And that Vulcan shotgun, he's just able to cover the entire room if he wants.
Burst 4 Vulcan shotgun.
So
It
is
was
it so is it burst one naturally?
burst 2 plus 1,
Yeah.
was,
Okay.
and then
Shit.
in a link it's burst 4. It was so cool. It was so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, just thematically, like he's got this big suit just like just coming through and just hosing things down. Yes, that was a really good game. I think Aaron's been playing the game for about a year. He's a lovely painter. He's a really good painter actually. But yeah, he's been playing about a year, so we worked together throughout the game. But that's my third loss for the league. So I started with Bug into the sword, and then after that, I just haven't been able to win a game. So it's been pretty interesting. So I've got my fourth round game this Thursday, fighting for Wooden Spoon. So we'll see how
Yeah.
we end up.
I mean,
Um,
Armory does sound like a tough game for TAC.
yeah, it can
Because
be.
if memory serves, I mean they're okay, I guess, at clearing the armory,
Not
but not
bad.
great. I mean,
Yeah,
a patcher with burst 4 Vulcan shotgun is gonna do better than most things in
yeah.
yeah.
Pavel had to get rid of him. Pavel was like, yeah, enough. So just decharged the shit out of him. Traded. That was pretty fun. Yeah, it was a cool game. Really good game. Aside that, I've got we played some Aristea recently at Axonales last night. Actually, we had 6 of us. They were doing some prime time, so 4-player Aristea, and then me and
Ooh,
Josh. Josh, he played a one-on-one game to a nice 8-all draw. It was really fun actually. Good to play Aristea again. Actually, it's a really really good game. For those of you new to Corvus Belli or Infinity, it was one of their I think maybe their second game that they made. You can still get it. It's really good. Highly recommended. Definitely worth having part of your board game collection.
one day I'm gonna have to make you sit down and actually teach me the damn thing, because all
Yeah,
I've
man.
ever managed to do is watch people play it.
It's really good. I hope we get some of it being played at BCA. I'll definitely have my copy.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get Hector down as well. Yeah, really great game. And the only other thing I've done opinion related is I caught up with Ivory. Ivory, one of our listeners and one of the Sydney locals. He was down in Melbourne for his teacher's fencing. I won't give away too many more details about him, but yeah, he was basically here for a fencing meet, and we got some time. We got dinner, talked all things Infinity. I basically used it as an opportunity to get insight on his lists. So for BCB, so I'm hoping to yeah.
Last year in CanCon, you asked for
That's
people's
right.
lists, and now he Ivory. For anyone who remembers, I think he won the Anzac Cup.
Oh, did he win? No,
No, no, no, not
no.
Anzac Cup.
I don't know if he's won a tournament yet.
No, we
I
got
don't
him
think
in
he's
for
even
we got
podium.
him in for views from the Ivory Tower.
Oh, I think he came. Oh, that's because he ran Pano at
The
CanCon. It was
vanilla
really a
pan.
pity invite. Yeah, he hasn't actually won anything. That was a pity invite.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
don't, Jesus, comes down to Melbourne, sees you, and you bag him.
No.
But no,
So
that's
no, he's excellent. He's actually going to be playing. Yeah, I'm not sure. He's still tossing up between what he's playing, but we'll see. Whatever he's playing is going to be very, very strong
yeah,
with. So yeah. Actually, on the topic, Jacob, of submitting lists for BCB, you
yes.
baited our listeners with your post saying, "Hey guys, this episode is going to be all about
So,
lists."
So two things. A, I apologize. I mucked up the schedule. This
Oh, that's
was it.
fine.
I thought this was going to be the Pimp My List BCB episode. That's the next episode.
Yeah,
Secondly, probably good that it ended up that way, because at the moment we haven't quite got enough submissions. So anybody who's listening, get your lists in. Right? I love our Pimp My List episodes. They're a lot of fun for us to do.
yeah.
So start submitting them, even if they're the fake lists and they're all weird and stuff. Doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely. No, that's right. So it's a good opportunity to make a shout out there. We will be doing an episode in anticipation to BCB of basically going through people's lists that they're taking. Feel free to send us in your list there that you might need help with, or you just want to
Hmm.
flex on people, or you just are tossing up between 3 lists and you just want a bit of an opinion. It's like, is this list any good? Whatever you feel, we think that might be worth asking, do it. We're happy, all for it. We're curious to see what people are bringing, and we'll obviously be sharing some of our lists.
Yeah, and um, not to, I suppose, to like blow our own horn too much, but people have submitted lists and afterwards have come up to us and said like, "Hey, I was really
Cool, man.
struggling trying to figure this new army out, and I was really appreciated your advice." So it's not just us, taking the piss. We are there to help to some extent.
I shared my list for CanCon and I still came third, so it's not like it's going to give you a disadvantage or anyone's going to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, what's your list?" Oh, and then they're going to come to the table and know everything you've got. So
yeah.
don't worry about it. But if you do have that feel free to submit it anonymously. Actually, we prefer if you submit it anonymously. I'll make it more fun for us to guess as well. So who it could be. So yeah. Anyway, Jacob, what have you been up to?
I've had a couple of games. I'm still sort of playing around with Bakunin. So I had a game last week with Tristan. Finally got to play his Deshat. I always love playing people who play NA2. A, because you rarely get to see NA2 armies, and B, I can generally go in there and not be too afraid of what they're taking because NA2 armies struggle.
They're
Um,
trash.
yeah, well, most of them are. He's still got
Yeah.
bloody Spiral Core and JSA sitting in the
Okay,
NA2
so
lists. But yeah, still sort of trying to figure out Bakunin. It's more at this point trying to figure out what of all the really good things they have that I like the most. So I put this list together that inadvertently, as I was putting it together, formed a 5-man Reverend call. As along with, I wanted to try and do a list that mixed the observant side and the anarchy
Hmm?
side. So I took that, and then on the other side, I had the Chimera, obviously a bunch of moderators, and Taskmaster with the Morlocks, and we were playing Capture and Protect. I got fairly lucky in the first turn. A couple of like bad rolls. By Tristan, but it also did show just the resilience of the Moiras. That 3 armor can really come in clutch, especially when you've got. I had Mother Agatha in this court. Sure, she's right next to somebody, so I'm willing to go and say he came at me with a light shotgun with the template, and I'm willing to go. Okay, hopefully she'll pass one of these armor saves, and Mother Agatha's right there to pick her back up. Um, I'll kill him, get rid of this Coom Rider, and pick her back up. Should have worked that way. Hit sorry, Moira HMG did eventually go down to the Coom Rider. Went up to with Mother Agatha with burst 3 medkit. Killed her. Killed
Oh,
her.
that's impressive.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's
do you
like
get
two.
reroll if you did the doctor?
No. I did medkits because I wanted to be order efficient. I was like, there's no
Yes.
it's on 12s. I rolled 2 17s and an 18, and just HMG gone.
Oh, and you hit all. So you hit all
I
three
hit all
shots with them.
three,
Yeah, but
and
you
then
failed all
and then
three.
failed every single fizz
What are
test.
the odds of that? I'd be curious.
Not huge. Um, so anyway, I mean that was unfortunate, but still, the freaking Moiras just um, they just they're just so hard for things to hit if you don't have enough MSV. Like he put a Maggie in my face. Um, and I'm just sitting there with burst 3 sniper rifle. I don't think I ever got hit. I was always like succeeding. Um, I'll admit there's one problem is I haven't played with a core in a long time. Made a couple of mistakes in core positioning for whatever reason. I very obviously put a Cenobite in line of sight of his or an easy line of sight of his MSV2 brawler sniper. Don't know why I did that.
Ah,
Don't know
very
why I
nice.
did that.
Yeah, yeah.
Once I finished the turn, I was like, that was dumb.
Oh.
That Cenobite's going to die. Sure enough,
How'd
she
you
did.
find the Cenobites actually?
Well, she just died in this one.
Okay, so okay,
I've used them with more success before, and they are like the ultimate. The best thing about Cenobite is it's cheap. It's got decent amount of wounds, but
yeah.
because of the loadout they've got, they're great for like I would almost always put them on the edges of your fire team, and they're just great for covering a corner.
Yeah.
Because you come around and you go, I'm either going to dodge and into melee, and I'm pretty good at melee. I've got burst. That particular one, the chain rifle one, has burst +1 pistol. So in a
Yeah,
core
nice.
is well on the active is burst 4, but burst 2
Yeah,
normally.
that's really
Yeah, no, that profile is great. So yeah, I'm getting into the point where I'm sort of narrowing down what I like about Bakuna, but also
yeah.
figuring out the weaknesses. So Bakuna do lack a lot of good midfield. They've got the basic camo, thingo camo. Yeah, the initiate's nice that they've got now, with the repeater.
Mm.
Um,
You still get the Tomcats? No, not Tom. Jesus. The Prowlers.
yeah, like I said, they've got sort of the standard array of camo, like infiltrating camo, infiltrating TO camo. They
Yeah.
do have the initiates, which is nice, like the once used camo with the deployable repeater. Um, but other than that, like there's nothing really like they don't have anything above. They don't have like a Moran or the
Yeah.
or
Anything special?
like a Caliban or something like that that like
Yeah.
pops
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
and it's this huge threat. They don't have anything really like that, and they don't have a lot of speed. They don't have any bikes. Most like they're the like riot girls and stuff. Yeah, they're 6'2", but that's still only 8 inches. It's
Right. Yeah.
nicer, but it's
Absolutely.
not great. As well as this particular season, the lack of terrain total hurts them. Because we're
Yeah.
playing
Right.
capture and protect, and we'll get it. You know what? I'm not even going to go into it. We'll
Yeah.
do it later. I suppose that,
I was gonna say because speed comes in the form of auto efficiency and impetuous, right? And in terms of impetuous, what you've got impetuous is your Morlocks and your
uber foul.
um Uberfowl, right? That's it. So
Mm,
that's like your two avenues of
yeah.
speed
It
and
it does it does like work. The problem is that like when I think about speed, I think about sort of getting to the middle, doing an objective, and then sort of getting back to safety
yeah,
or something like
okay.
that. Because that's generally how Infinity goes. Yeah, like the Morlocks can be fast, and they can like they can get work done. But I just don't see them as like sort of like objective getters or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I understand.
Uberfowl, yeah, is quick again. Is like that one thing that's quick, but it doesn't really do anything because it's not that it doesn't have like a specialist objective, uh, specialist operative. The other thing I'm finding I've found every time I took the Uberfowl is I don't like taking all three of the Pupniks, because it's difficult to fit them all into cover and hide them, and they tend to just get under each other's feet. And every time I've played somebody who has Pupniks, one of them has to die. Like one of them just ends up getting shot in an ARO and
Yeah,
dies.
yeah.
Right. Whereas you could achieve the same thing with just having two, and you just don't have that one Pupnik die. Um,
It's like the dog where it's hard to use, like the hard to use model of your faction, kinda, I
yeah.
guess.
Well, it's one of those things that everyone, rightfully so, thinks is dangerous, and they put some heavy ARO piece there.
Yes.
At the very least, the Uberfell has the advantage of it has Eclipse grenades and not smoke, so MSV
Yes, it
doesn't help.
does. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still playing around. I want to play around with Brando more, because I
That's a
know.
good midfielder.
Yes, he is the like a sort of I suppose exception to the
Exception, yeah.
excuse that I'm giving is he's a very good midfielder. Um,
Yeah.
I got to sort of play around with him a bit more. It's
The-
mainly because BCB has a lot of touch something and bring it back. He's not quite
Yeah.
as useful as he would otherwise be. But like
Yeah, it's interesting because he's an assassin, but he can't really assassinate anything chunky. He can go after weaklings. He looks like a bully. Is that right? From what I remember of his profile?
yeah, yeah, because they took away the DA weapon from him, and he's only got a
Uh,
shock weapon now. He yeah, he can't quite punch as hard as he used to. Admittedly, that like if you're seeing a tag or something like that, probably the good thing is just because Brando's so maneuverable is probably just get him into. It's one of those things like how I use the dog warrior is you just get him into melee and then you stop giving him orders.
yeah, yeah, and then make him deal with it. Any mission that gives him like the Master Breach D traps, D charges might be pretty dangerous.
Well, the problem is I'm pretty sure you can't marker
Yeah,
state
you
the
can't be marker. Yeah, no,
master
yeah,
breacher.
you're right. You're
That
right. Never
said,
mind.
He doesn't have D charges, but he gets most of the other things that the Master Breacher get. He's got
Awesome, yeah.
terrain total, he's got climbing plus,
Total.
he's got super jump. Yeah, no, he's great. Um, Especially because he can over infiltrate well. I just haven't had a chance to use him. I'm sort of playing around. Like that one list that I was playing with, I could definitely move points around to sort of fit him in and not really affect the rest of the army.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you like the format of our show, not a lot of news coming out
Corvus Belly.
from Corvus Belly. We, Lost of Lieutenant, got some exciting news, and that's all I'll say. All
Cool.
right. But yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of news. No new model releases or anything like that. They're probably sort of ramping up to Gen Con that's coming soon.
Right,
So that's probably
so-
where they're probably saving all their juicy goss for them.
Hmm?
So we're going to move on to our challenge announcements and our events. Val, take it away.
Good. Let's do it. So the June monthly challenge, just the tip, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking for limited insertion lists. This month we challenge you to build limited insertion lists and write into us about your experience. When we say limited insertion, we mean single combat group. So that means 10 models. Um, maybe that means you run your tag, maybe you run two tags. Just trying to encourage you to play with less models and more high premium models, I suppose. And yeah, tell us how it goes. See if it changes your list. See if it changes your experience playing Infinity. How is it having 10 orders or instead of the 15? Yeah, as always, give us your reports and analysis to lostlieutenant@gmail.com. And random winner will be chosen at the end of the month to win a to win a blister of their choice from TSI, Toy Soldier Imports.
Yeah, I was thinking today actually that someone potentially, I don't know, I'm thinking about it, needs to run Elite Command Melbourne again.
Yeah,
I miss that. I
that's
miss that
ECM.
format.
Yeah.
All right, so going on to our quarter two challenge, mission received. This is the last episode before the challenge will be over. So, all right, we have been asking for this quarter for our listeners to send us in their custom missions. I know that everybody out there's had a thought of, oh, what if we had a mission like this? What if we had a mission like that? This is your chance to prove how good your creative skills are at creating Infinity missions. So send us in your mission ideas to lossoflieutenant at gmail.com. Please, again, stick to the format that you generally see presenting the actual official ITS missions. It just helps with readability, helps with everybody understand it. And we'll randomly pick at the end of the quarter a lucky winner to get a box of their choice from Toy Soldiers Imports. Additionally, right, we Loss of Lieutenant hosts will be taking a look at some of these missions and picking this will be us actually picking our top three to do a custom tournament, which we will talk about in the events announcements. To do like an in real life tournament with them. We've been reading through some of the submissions, and I gotta
Yeah.
say, some of them are like I like a lot of what I'm seeing. I actually really
There's some
enjoy them.
great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really great missions, and thank you for everyone who submitted so far. There's about 18 submissions so far, so there's a lot of people, a lot of
Yeah.
missions. Some really creative ones, some very clever ones using well-known formats and
Mm.
mechanics to try and put a different spin on the mission. Really good stuff. So thank you all for who've submitted, and we look forward to a couple more.
Yep. Um.
Um, Right. So just as part of the announcement, the next event we're going to shout out is Beer Affinity. But before we do that, that's an event that's being held in Sydney, and some of the Sydney guys have asked us to basically shout out their initiative that they're doing Sydney. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to do a concerted drive to kind of spur up the Infinity community. So basically, I believe. It's an initiative by Tero, Ryan, Ivory, and Frank with the help of Trent. And what they're doing is basically trying to find a venue for a regular venue for Infinity to be played and run regular events and try, yeah, really grow the Sydney community. So they've sent us an email and they've asked us to read it out word for word. So basically, some of the Sydney guys are setting up a regular community event and they're asking for input and feedback. The best way to get a new gaming day off the ground is to hear everyone's feedback as to what they want. To that end, there are polls on Infinity Australia Facebook group. Anyone who's keen on playing Infinity in Sydney is encouraged to vote on the venue, frequency, and time, as well as provide any other input they'd like to share. The polls and discussions will run until the 3rd of July after Brewfinity. This with the first event running in August or September. If you want to play more games of Infinity, this is a great opportunity to make this event your own. So yeah, so it sounds like they're doing a regular event, and as basically part of that, they're trying to grow the community wider. If you're not on Infinity Australia group, join. And I'm wondering if the Sydney Infinity community have their own Facebook group, kind of like we do in Melbourne.
I think I think it's New Infinity New South Wales or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully they have it. If they
Yeah,
don't, they should
just
set one
I
up.
mean, hell, if you just put Infinity and then space and then put a hyphen and then see what comes up, you'll find something.
You'll
Oh,
probably
it
find
might be
Sydney, but yeah.
what's Sith?
Sith
Sydney
was
Infinity something?
no, I think there was like a gaming group in Sydney. I think it was like the tied to a venue that they used to go to.
Ah, well,
I think,
yeah,
but I'm not 100% sure.
yeah.
But yeah. But the upcoming event in Sydney, which is Brewfinity or Beerfinity, I'm not sure. We've got two different names coming here, but the point is, they are having an event at a brewery. So have you ever wanted to play Infinity in a brewery? Well, now you can. Join us for a one-day tournament in Willie the Boatman Brewery in St. Peter's in Sydney's in the West on Sunday, July the 2nd. It will be an ITS event with 3 games consisting of BCB missions. The first will be Cryogenics, the second will be Capture and Protect or Frontline, and the third mission will be Supplies or Decapitation. I'm interested how they can do that. Entry is only $10 with a generous prize pool, and every entrant receives a Brewfinity container to add to their terrain collection. We have room for 14 players, and the precinct the brewery is in has plenty of parking and is also close to public transport, Sydenham Station, I think. For more information, search OTM for Brewfinity. Check the LOL Discord or contact Tara directly via azrabb@gmail.com. And did I mention a brewery? So yeah, it looks really good. So yes, it's great to hear the
Yeah,
Sydney guys are doing a
I
lot of
think
work.
there's one pairing that I've always heard about is Infinity and beer.
Yes, yes.
It's why
Uh,
I think so many people enjoy Axes and Ales.
Yes, snacks and that has been great. I've been really loving it.
So the next event we're talking about is Outbreak TTD narrative event. So this is happening on Saturday, the 8th of July at Throw the Dice in Geelong. It's a 3-round, 300-point narrative event run by Richard. So it's sort of the theme is sort of a zombie apocalypse event. The main thing to know is that during this event, lists will be open information, and there will be sort of random events happening like during the missions and all that sort of things. You know, sort of standard affair for a narrative event where the missions, yeah, it's about sort of throwing dice, playing Infinity, not so much about winning. You know, if something random happens and it ruins your entire plan, it's kind of the point. There will be special prizes for the best survivor and the best sick HVT. So tickets are $20 and they are available from the Throw the Dice website.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's not far away now at all. So yeah, that should be good. 2 weeks away.
I suppose it's not. Yeah, it's only about 2 weeks.
And then the week after, we have Codename Custom Ordnance. So this is, as Jacob mentioned previously, this is the event we're running at House of War, where we're going to be using 3 of the missions that have been submitted through our quarterly challenge. Basically, this is to celebrate our listeners' efforts. This is also a great way to kind of play Infinity in a very different style. Since we've had 18 missions submitted, I'm probably going to compile a pack of those missions for everyone who attends. That way, at least you walk away with pretty much a whole new custom ITS document of the missions that have been submitted as part of
Yeah,
the challenge. So
I think we would be doing a disservice not to give everybody these
yeah,
missions because some of the like well, we were going to have to choose 3, but I can tell you right now, I think everybody in the like the every Lost Lieutenant host probably has about 5 or 6 that they really like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be obviously we'll release them online as well for people to view as well. But yeah, for the event, I'm probably gonna do some physical printouts, so that should be pretty good. But basically, remember the other thing with these missions is the fact that Heloise will be looking through them. So some of them might be used for the future ITS documents. So if you haven't entered the mission, please do. If you'd like to support us and the effort these listeners have made, get on down. This is the 15th of July. It's a Saturday. It'll be at House of War, $20. And yeah, it should be a pretty good event. Should be a bit more, I guess, fun and casual rather than the next event that's coming up, which is BCB.
Yeah, speaking of BCB, happening the 5th and 6th of August at the Flemington and Kensington Bowls Club. Now, as it is June, the ticket price is $75, with still Melbourne Wargaming Incorporated getting $5 off. And we'll obviously be covering the missions a bit later on. So I think we'll move on to the next event.
Yes, the Stakeout 5 by Biovine Techvor.
Bovine
This
Tech
is
4.
Bovine Techvor. Oh, no, Bovine. So tickets are on sale for Stakeout Bovine Techvor on September 2nd and 3rd in the beef capital of Australia, Rockhampton, Queensland. This is for Queensland players. The missions are subject to ITS 15. Capture and protect highly classified biotech for frostbite decapitation. It's capped at 30 players at the beautiful and licensed Millennial Comics. Infinity Bingo and the usual social dinner will be back again. So, yeah, so good to hear some news out of Queensland. So, obviously, they've got an event coming up, so it's pretty exciting.
I've just realized this the second day of Bovine Tech 4 will be a bloodbath. It's Biotech Vor, Frostbite, and Decapitation. Like,
Yeah,
if the only way he could make that more fighty is putting Annihilation in there.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, frostbite, you never have many points left. Decapitation, you never have many points left, and you're lucky if you have a lieutenant left. Also, Dash.
I still remember someone who was playing Biotech Vor with a list called "Hold Your Breath, Boys," and it was just spamming like the high BTS models in Hak Islam.
That's
So
actually
his entire plan
pretty
was to just run
good.
around with Bokhtars and have like a Harris of IRs sitting in
Oh,
his deployment
yeah.
zone.
Oh,
Apparently it worked. Apparently it
there you go.
worked.
Yeah, Infinity is a strange game sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's good.
Well, that leads us probably into our main segment. Did we want to take a quick break?
Yeah, Kevin just joined us actually. So
Yeah. So
Kev,
Kevin will be
hello,
joining us
hello.
after the break. And I'm going to go and get a drink.
Perfect. Sounds
All right.
good. I'll grab a bev. See what we got. All right.
All right. See you
Sounds good.
then. Cool. We are recording. Craig will still be recording. So, welcome back to our break. For anyone watching the stream or listening a second, we've been joined by our gracious third host all the way in bumfuck
WA.
nowhere, Kevin.
G'day, gents. How we going?
Well, doing well.
Good. Now, the primary reason we wanted you to be on for this episode, if any of our listeners don't know, is you're one of the TOs slash organizers of BCB. So before we really got into the nitty gritty of the missions, we just wanted to sort of get the sort of behind the scenes look at how you pick these missions. Like why did you pick this mission lineup? Maybe even the order of the lineup, because as you will come to know at the end of this episode, the mission lineups can very much affect how people go into a tournament as a whole, especially a 2-dayer.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about the and yeah, delighted to get on and to discuss the event. Really looking forward to it. It's coming up real fast. So yeah, so myself, I'm one of the TOs. Nick, who used to be on the show, is the other TO, and Peter Henry, a stalwart of the Infinity Melbourne community who often runs events at House of War, is the third TO. So we missions, like we kind of laid a few ground rules out first for when we picked the 5 missions. One of them is to avoid too many missions from CanCon, which was the other large Infinity event that happened in January this year, 2-day event. Because we're obviously trying to make big BCB as big as CanCon if we can. So
Yeah.
we're expecting a lot of the same familiar faces that came to CanCon to come to BCB. So we don't want to like hit them with the same 5 missions that happened at CanCon. Similarly, we also want to avoid too many missions from the last BCB because again, that's just kind of stale. I know it's been a year on and the season has changed, but there are 20 odd missions for a
Yeah.
reason. So let's try not to stick with the same 5 ones. And then the third point that we wanted to do was avoid objective remissions, which it's a hard one because I do enjoy objective remissions, but they're a dick of a thing to set up for Teals. And also, you need 20 objective rooms, which we don't have in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Like we could make, but we don't currently have.
I think I remember a Nova Core at some point, and it was just pictures from Gavin of
2019.
just a pile of objective rooms.
Mhm.
So that makes sense. As fun as they are, armory and all that's really just for a one day, a small thing with friends.
Well, they really
I think
skew a
so.
list build as well. Like, yeah, the
Mm.
They
list you
do,
gotta
and they
build.
also really
Yeah.
skew table design as well, because then you've either got to put an objective room down on round 1, then just kind of say, hey, this is an objective room, play it as like infinite height or don't you, and then then finally when you get to that mission, you say it's an objective room, or you can like put it like have it as a round 1, and then round 2 remove them, but then you've got to rejig however many tables, and then there's inevitable you will fuck it up, and someone will have a shit time on a table because you didn't move stuff right. So,
Yeah.
which is it's a shame because like it starts to if you remove every mission that has weird deployment zones like power pack or weird table setups like power pack, across the 2 objective room missions, like even biotech vor with an 8-inch deployment zone, you start you're removing like 25% of your missions. So
Yeah.
but anyway, we decided that because we didn't want it to be difficult for us on the weekend. After that, we have a Google sheet where we have like our admin for BCB, which is just a bunch of tabs for everything from how many players we have, the missions, how much money we've got, what we spent it on, prize support ideas, dinner ideas, that sort of stuff. One of the tabs was mission selection. So the 3 of us just kind of went like, here, just drop the 5 missions you want to play or you want to see at BCB, and then we'll kind of like thrash it out from there. So we did that, and like two out of the 3 of the missions we all agreed on. I can't remember which ones they were because the tab's since been deleted. But yeah, basically we had that, and then we kind of like just kind of worked it out, like massaged it from there. I I had this idea to play Hunting Party because I don't know wanted to try it out, and unfortunately that was shot down. Actually, fortunately, it was shot down because we did play Hunting Party at James's house recently, and I was like, yeah, this is not a good mission. Like it needs some tweaking. Needs some tweaking, and yeah, like it would just be I don't know. It wasn't as good a mission as I thought. I also made a claim, not claim. I also suggested some custom missions because we've been talking about custom missions a lot. There has been custom missions at a bunch of events, but that similarly kind of was kind of voted out just for the purposes of avoiding mental load of players and us as well. So we decided not to use custom missions this event. We did come dangerously close to running Power Pack or Biotech Vor because once we had our kind of 5 rough missions, we realized they were all kind of vanilla missions. We were like, oh, let's add some spice, and then we're like, oh, Biotech Vor, and they're like, oh no, but the deployment zones are weird. Oh, Power Pack, oh, the deployment zones are also weird, and we're like, oh yeah, fuck, what do we do? So in the end, we decided on Decapitation as being like sort of the spiciest mission, but it's not really that spicy. Just kind of, like just really what we had was oh yeah, that was what happened. So we realized we had Cryogenics because it was the last time Cryogenics was possibly going to be in the season. We're like, let's put it in there. We're near the end of the season. Chuck it in. Supplies also came up because supplies is a solid mission, and the other two guys we were all pretty happy with including it. And we realized we had two of the paramedic/doctor missions. One of us, someone made a point of saying, let's not include hacker bonus missions because every tournament has a hacker bonus mission in it. Like most missions seem to favor hackers, even if there's not hacker bonus. You can almost guarantee some outside of Ariadna, someone or maybe Toha, everyone's going to have a hacker. So we decided to exclude missions like unmasking, acquisition, all those missions that have hacker bonuses in it. Basically because fuck nomads, right? Like,
Absolutely.
that's why.
I mean, I remember. I can't remember whether it was like BCB or something, where some really do look at a lot of mission lineups and you're like, I just take a hacking faction. I get so many bonuses.
Novacom.
Here.
That was Novacom.
Yeah.
That was Novacom.
That's no, and I think we raised that at Novacore. Like it was very hacking friendly, and we saw. I think we saw that in the lineup. We also saw a lot of tags as well, which kind of heaps of tags too. Yeah. So anyway, supplies and cryogenics they blend. They pair really well together. We had capture and protect because Nick was like adamant that he has capture and protect. I don't know what was going on that particular day. He was just like, capture and protect. Let's fucking play capture and protect. Like, all right, capture and protect is in. Although after playing looting and sabotaging at Tristan's recent event, I kind of enjoyed that mission more, which I was surprised at.
Yeah. It was interesting because I part of the catch up with Ivory, we were talking about looting sabotage. He doesn't like the mission at all and he made a good point because one of the things with looting sabotage, the game, you defend poorly, the game's almost over because you can't bring the objective back. There, the points are locked in for your opponent, and then it's just like, and he says there's a couple of things that exist in the game that can make you skew your list for it. I don't know if I agree. That's just his opinion. I don't know if I agree. I think some factions are going to be better than others, but if you're going to skew your list to 1 out of 5, I don't know if that's going to be so great for the tournament as a whole. But yeah, so yeah, capture, protect, and looting cat sabotage both. Really difficult missions actually. Fun.
Yeah, difficult missions for different reasons. I think. So anyway, so we had capture and protect, and then finally we were kind of going back and forth on quad control or frontline because we wanted some kind of other domination kind of mission. We already had cryogenics, which is already in quadrants. We were like, well, let's have frontline because it is a slightly different dominating thing, but as you said, it's like highly classified with extra steps, which kind of adds a little bit of extra variance to the mission spread. So, in the end, we have basically a set of missions that all of them, like you can say this about most missions, but they are quite focused on movement. So you've got supplies where you need to get to the middle and push the buttons and grab the thing and hold it. Cryogenics, similar, get to the thing, get the HVT out, and then dominate an area. Capture and protect, self-explanatory. Got to get to the other side of the table and bring that thing back. Frontline is, you've got to spread your forces out while doing classifieds, and then finally decap, which is probably the most killy mission out of the 5. Also relies on quite a lot of mobility and the ability to move to get to your opponent's LT, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a lot of the pick was based around mobility. It was based around trying to diversify the specialists that you would need outside of needing hackers in all the missions. And the last was to basically make it easy for the TOs. And then the lineup order was kind of done mostly just to make it easier for TOs. So if you look at the lineup, we've got Cryogenics. So the round 1, 4 objectives on each of the quadrants. Take that away for round 2 and replace it with 2 beacons for capture and protect. Nice and easy. Round 3, remove both of those, and you got frontline. Round 4 is the second day. Put the 3 things down for supplies, and then decapitation, you remove them. So there's no mucking around really in between. Round 1 to 2 is lunch, so the TOs have plenty of time to move the objectives. Then round 4 is lunch, and there's no objectives there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess any thoughts from you guys?
No, it's a good balance.
Yeah, I do like the focus on, and like agree with what you say. You went, okay, let's try not to have like just try to avoid it. It's not that like you don't have any hacker bonuses, that you try to avoid it. Like you said before, the hackers are good enough as they are. So it's nice to take their bonuses away, and it also means that like I remember the number of tournaments where I wanted to like try and get into attack, and every single time BCB or Nova Core or Kanko would come up, I would just look at the missions and go, I don't have a hacker. It's if I get caught in that thing where you're rolling 15s constantly on an objective and you just can't do it, right? That just ruins your entire game for no reason other than the fact that you wanted to play a faction that was at a disadvantage at the beginning. So the good thing about BCB, I feel, is that no one is at a disadvantage. Every single army has paramedics. Every single army, like the worst it's going to be is if you get unlucky as like Ariadne or something and you draw test run. That's about the worst I can see for Frontline, I should say.
Yeah,
Careful, Jacob. There's only so much shit talk I'll take from about TAC before I have to say something and remind everyone that I won the last event in Melbourne with TAC. Thank you. So
yeah, but that was also a bunch of really good missions that TAC could do very well.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
my only oh sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say the mission lineup's good. I like it.
Yeah, my only regret is that we may have played the missions too safe. Like I was really fanging for a custom mission or an old ITS mission, but and like and I said in the notes here, I could honestly see supplies fired from a cannon into the sun and not be sad because I am sick of seeing it.
Supplies is the hardest mission for me.
And it's hard. Yeah, you're right. It's a hard mission.
Yeah,
it's just always there. I want someone to spice up supplies for me.
And as we saw, going back to the old missions, hunting party is probably the more like normal one that sort of translates the best, and it doesn't translate all that well. It probably wasn't that good back then. It's probably just some rose tinted glasses.
Yeah, it wasn't good back then either.
Yeah, the only ones I can think of that would be like really good, sort of like would skew your entire thing. It's like Deadly Dance or Show of Force. Those other sort of weird ones, but it wouldn't have fit into the rest of the missions.
And the last. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying you probably were correct to be like maybe Biotech Vor, maybe Power Pack. And I could probably see, I would like to actually see Power Pack again, because I think we're all a bit too harsh on the fact that it just has a kind of weird deployment.
It's one of those missions that has to be played more regularly in like 1-day events so people get used to it, and then you put it into like a big 2-day event. Otherwise, too much of a risk for
that's a good point.
But like I said, I don't think you've done. I think you've done your choices of missions for like the bonuses and all the things you were going for are good.
The general thought is like we'll get into like mission like list splitting, but from our point of view, we're thinking, well, supplies and cryogenics, that's potentially one list, and then you've got frontline and capture and protect could be another list. But you could also do capture and protect and decapitation, because you don't need specialists for either of those. So you could do it that way, and you could put frontline in with a cryogenics list because you need some specialists, you need mobility. So there's like a little bit of like toing and froing. So you could almost massage one list to do all 5, but you could massage 2 lists that could then there's a bit of crossover there for you.
All right.
You're not like you're not like going 4 and 1. You're doing like it's a bit more of a blend.
Did you guys debate mission 5?
Yeah, we debated what to make mission 5. I think it was going to be firefight, and it was like a firefight gets played a lot, and we wanted to have something fun, light-hearted, I guess, on mission 5. So I thought about capture and protect, but
Yeah.
that can be because it can
Intense mission.
it's an intense mission, and it's hard to get a solid win on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll talk about it in a bit, but yeah, I think your choice. I mean, the way that things go in the middle, I think the most important mission, like as far as order to pick, I think 1 to 4 doesn't really matter too much. Obviously, it matters for you as TOs for reorganizing things, but that last mission, I think, is really kind of an important choice. And I think of all the missions that you've got up there, Decapitation was like the right choice because like the objectives are clear and it's generally pretty easy to get like a clear win in it. Whereas in like if you picked, well, we'll talk about it, but if you picked Capture and Protect, I don't think it would be a good end to the
I
tournament.
think the third mission in a tournament's pretty important as well because that's when you're really
end of
fatigued.
the end of the second day as well.
yeah, no, you're
Yeah,
dead
I
right.
think the third mission day one is like, yeah, especially if you're running on 2 wins and you're fatiguing it because you've had 2 close games. That's actually a really pivotal mission as well. So
And
I believe
Frontline can be
that's
really close
Frontline.
too.
Frontline can
Yeah,
be really close. Should be
can be
Well,
really close,
let's-
especially when you don't know, you can't judge that distance, right? You're
Yeah.
like, I really hope this unit's in.
Well, let's
Yeah,
stop. Let's stop talking general. Let's get down to specifics with the
Good.
actual missions. So we're starting off. We're just going to go in the order that BCB will be played. Starting off with Cryogenics. So the way we're going to go through this is we're just sort of going to try and get through the rules of the missions, sort of point out anything that's special that you need to know about it. We will stop repeating some of the special rules that you see over and over again, and then we'll sort of talk about what we think is important in a list for the mission, pitfalls of the particular mission, what we typically do, and then sometimes some like other thoughts if the mission has something to worth mentioning. So with Cryogenics, we have the scoring is there is 1 classified objective. At the end of the game, activate 2 or more tech coffins. At the end of the game, dominate a quadrant containing a HVT. You get 2 objective points for each quadrant you dominate with a HVT in it. Alternatively, you can threaten a HVT. You get 1 objective point for each HVT threatened. At the end of the game, threaten a HVT with your Master Breacher, and at the end of the game, at the end of each game round, have your Master Breacher in a quadrant that you dominate. So, if you take a look at the deployment for this mission, it's just set up in your standard sort of 4-quadrant setup, 12-inch deployment, and the tech coffins. Yeah, tech coffins in the middle of each quadrant. So as far as special rules go, this because it is a domination mission, Shazvasti and baggage apply. So for Shazvasti, for anyone who's not dealt with Shazvasti, what that means is their point still counts for dominating the zone even if they are in a null state. So if they've got the Shazvasti rule and they go into their unconscious state, which technically I think is still called the spawn embryo state for them.
Yes, spawn or seed or spawn. You're right. It is.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's just them are unconscious. It's still their points still count towards dominating the zone. So you want to, if you're gonna kill the Shazvasti model in a dominated one, you want them dead. Baggage.
Kill it with fire.
Yeah, exactly. Baggage, which is just if anything has baggage, you add 20 points to the points you have in that zone. We also have the no gravity rule, which means that anything with terrain 0G or terrain total and the super jump special skill gets +1 to their first movement skill, +1 inch to their first movement skill. So if something's moving 4/4 and they've got super jump or total or any of the terrains, they move 5 inches, which on some models is incredible. You also get the F-13 defensive turret, which is a BS-10 total reaction 360 visor combi rifle, S2 combi rifle model. Cannot move. It counts as equipment, so it can't go unconscious. It just goes straight to dead. One important thing, because again, this is trying to be sort of like is the big tournament, is the defensive turrets are deployed before the deployment phase. So you go in the same order. So the person who's deploying first, the person who's deploying second. But before any models actually hit the table, the turrets go down.
Yeah, which was a new thing to me.
Often
I don't think I
overlooked.
ever noticed that before.
I look
Yeah,
in all honesty, I mean, it doesn't always affect things, but the amount of times those turrets have done serious work, it's pretty important to probably concentrate on actually doing that.
Yeah,
Usually
well,
not,
because like
yeah.
it can change it. Like, if you are going second, or and actually, because it does say the player who kept deployment, usually the player who's going going second or deploying
Hmm.
second, puts it down first,
Oh,
technically,
okay. So my bad.
under
Yes.
that rule.
So if you're
Yeah,
if you're either forced to choose who deploys first and second, or you choose to keep that sort of thing, or probably the better way of saying is if you're picking deployment sides, you put down your turret first. And it is important because the amount of times that like it's been like you haven't done it right, but no, hardly anyone ever does. So don't anyone who's listening, don't blame yourself. You as part of your deployment as the person who's deploying second, you put down your turret and it's looking at some sort of piece. I remember my turret killed the Holy Knight of Seppuku in one turn. That shouldn't happen,
yeah, right.
right? I
Yeah.
think someone else that we were playing with got the turret just like critted some big piece off the table.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's right. It was McDoggo,
Oh
McMurrow.
yeah, yeah. Crit McDougall
Yeah, Crick
in the last
McDorrow
tournament or something.
straight off the
Yeah.
table. So they do work. So it's important that, especially in like a bigger tournament like this, that you stick to how it's supposed to be deployed because it does advantage the second player a lot to have this extra TO piece.
Yeah,
TR
and
piece.
it's also important. It's also important because, like, if you deploy it with the rest of your army, then and you can pick a space where it's sort of like maybe it doesn't matter too much. But if you pick it, if you have to put it down first, you have to be careful because you think, oh, this is a good spot for it.
Mm,
May also be a really good spot for your actual TR ball or for your fire
yeah.
team.
Well,
By putting it down first, it does actually, you have to really
yeah.
consider where it's going to go down. Is it going to impact the rest of your army?
Yeah, and
With that.
the one thing you got to watch out with these turrets is if you put it on a corner or something, don't forget that you don't get to use that corner for your other model that might
Yeah.
need that corner.
Yes.
So
Yeah, very good point.
yeah. But anyway,
Bear in
that's
mind,
all.
they also can't discover, which is something
Yeah,
that a
so
lot of
all
new
they can
players
do
or
is shoot
current players
and I think reset.
reset. I think they can hold. They can obviously they can delay like everything. Yeah.
Right, and so
And see, they can CC attack. They can CC attack.
yeah. So going on to the actual scoring rules. So there's the special rules for the scenario. These are the scoring rules. So you have the tech coffins. So a specialist goes up to the tech coffin. Like I said, there is 4 tech coffins in the middle of each quadrant. And they do a whip check. Doctors and paramedics get the bonus to that, so they get an extra dice and +3 whip to their whip check. And if you are successful on your whip check, you then roll another dice. On a 1 to 12, the tech coffin is considered to be empty. In both cases, right. Sorry. On a 1 to 12, it's considered empty. On a 13 to 20, a HVT appears. The allied HVT, so the person who's rolling it, your HVT will always deploy first. So it'll be your HVT and then it'll be the enemy's HVT. Once you do that roll, the tech coffin is removed from the table. Right, which is important because I think in supplies you don't necessarily have to get rid of the actual box.
I think it's only it's kind of one of those funny things where I think if it's treated technically in the rules, if it's treated as a token, you remove it. If it's treated as a physical scenery element, you can choose to leave it on the table. I think typically we always remove it. I think if you look closely at the rules, it says you can actually leave it if it's a scenery item. But I think everyone who plays this game always removes it, regardless of what it is on the table.
Probably a good thing to just call out at the beginning so no one has an argument about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because nothing worse than you booping a button and then losing all of your cover.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
And
"Oh,
more
fuck."
importantly,
An
not
IKEA
knowing
box.
that you're gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now threatening HVT, for anyone who's played for long enough, is very kind of reminiscent of secure HVT, not quite. Is the HVT is threatened by a player so long as they have one troop within the HVT zone of control, so within 8 inches. This particular mission objective, as in threatening the HVT, doesn't count if you already dominate the quadrant and have the HVT in it. And a dominant master breacher is just that you happen to have a master breacher within 8 inches of the HVT. So this is sort of important in, like, if you're dominating the zone, if you're dominating a zone, I suppose it's interesting. If you're dominating a zone with a HVT in it, and you want to threaten with the master breacher, you have to choose between that and getting the points for dominating a zone with a master breacher.
No, I think you can still dominate this, can't you?
Well, no, I'm saying if
you dominate the
if you have to take the master breacher out of a dominant zone.
I don't know that you do you?
Yeah, so because we wanted scoring at the end of each game round, have a dominant master breacher, which is them in a dominated zone.
Yep. Okay. Right.
It's just one of those things. So this is the new mission, sort of the new hotness in ITS 14. What do we think is important in a list for this mission?
Can I really quickly, just when
Yeah,
you were
go for it.
talking about threatening the HVT, I had a brain thing about the mission challenge that we're running. I was like, what if we had a mission? Sorry?
As in the making the missions, or the
as in the custom, as in
custom
making
missions,
the missions. Yeah? We have the threaten the HVT rule. What if we also had trigger the HVT rule? It's Pride Month, so you could have a month. You could have like a mission where like you've got to, like,
all right. They don't get us cancelled, Kev.
No, you could like wave a rainbow flag at some like HVT and it triggers them, and then that gives you points.
Trigger.
I mean, like you could trigger the HVT, make them watch Sky News or something like that. That would also count as triggering.
You just pick the one random thing that triggers people. Just like it's like, oh no, I'm waving mega flags around.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Just say panel was a mistake, whatever.
Well, it's like
something.
It's like you walk your doctor up to the HVT to do inoculation, and then they're like, no, I don't believe in that. Thanks, go away.
Oh no!
It's a good one. Actually, I like that one.
He said the HVT sneezes and suddenly it turns into biotech vor.
Yeah, it's like the anti-inoculate mission. Yeah, got to actually forcibly. I think someone submitted that as a mission during the pandemic. It was a little bit too soon, but I'd like to see that.
A little bit on the nose.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, sorry to segue.
So yeah, for this particular mission, probably more so than anything is there's a lot that you need to try and do in this mission. So I think one thing to consider is having that efficiency in pressing the buttons. So things like forward deploying whatever specialist you have. Or something like that, so you can get there, press the button. At least try and press one button in like your first turn or whatever. Like it can be difficult, especially because pressing buttons is always a gamble in cryogenics, because you press a button and nothing pops out, and then you press your second button and nothing pops out. And you're like, great. Now he automatically, my opponent, gets both the HVTs on his side.
Yeah.
But you don't want to press none because, and this has always been the controversy with cryogenics, is if your opponent goes ham and presses 3 buttons in total, you automatically lose 2 points because you didn't press 2 of them.
You can't. Yeah, because at the end of the game, have activate 2 or more tech coffins. So if they activate 3, you can only activate 1, and therefore you get 2, and it's baked in. Which is important. But I think what's important for this mission is paramedics and doctors. For me,
you don't want to be failing that role. You want to get it done.
This is my number one thing for this is have. I mean, obviously not every army can do it very well. But you want to make sure you have a paramedic or a doctor that you can reliably get to a button at least, because it's just very very important for the mission. It's very important for your, I guess, your position in the mission. Your bringing up a little word, your tempo for the mission. Like, because where you push the button is where the HVT comes out of, and that decides the line of scrimmage, right? Is it going to be both on my side, both on my opponent's side, maybe down the left flank or the right flank or fucking wherever they are? That's where the fight is going to end up taking place. So I think you having, yeah, like you say, having efficiency and pushing buttons means that you can kind of dictate where the fight's going to happen.
And I think Val, all I can think is in your head you're just thinking Dymo paramedic, Dymo paramedic, Dymo paramedic.
Dynamo paramedic and 112 motorized. No, the thing
so
though
good.
is the what's his name? The paramedic doesn't help you get the guy out though. It just helps you achieve pushing the button. How likely the guy the HVT is going to come out still the same. Doesn't matter who button.
True.
I think what's important is the buttons you push. So the pitfall is if you push the two nearest to you, the odds are there's 65% chance the HVT is not going to come out.
Yeah.
Going to be forced to come out on the other side. So if you're going to push two buttons around one, you want to push either the two on the side and then almost turn the deployments, split the table one way. Or you can obviously react to if you push the first one and the HVT comes out, that might change the game for you. Like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll press the nearest one to me and make it easy.
I like, especially as soon as you get one HVT out on your side, I think then you can kind of throw caution to the wind, and like press another button and just be like, oh, I failed. Oh well, you've like the game's even now. Or you
know one's gonna be on your side,
or you press it and you got both HVTs on your side, and you're like, sweet, I've got kind of the advantage here.
I think what you're saying, Val, is I think it's correct. Like 90% of the time is to go pick a flank with your 112 is boop the button closest to you, boop the button farthest away from you. Because if you do get it correct in the first roll, you go and get it on the second roll and it doesn't come out, then it's either on your side or it's still the same situation. I think having something that can push a button efficiently is good. But yeah, you're right. The weighted dice means that it's odds are it's not coming out on your side. And the other thing I value is a solid master breach, because that guy's worth what? How many points? 4 or 5 points for the game?
Yeah, if he's got at least the dominant. So how much can he do for the dominating?
3 for dominate
so
and
3.
1 for or 2 for.
So 3, and potentially if you're sort of on the back foot, kind of, another 1. So 4 points. Yeah.
Points, yeah.
Oh yeah, 4, and then 1 for the threat, and if you can't get the dominate, yeah.
Sorry. I mean, I suppose technically you could dominate both HVTs with him if you were in some sort of odd position, but
you could, because you could drag them.
You could drag your HVT over and get close enough to the other one.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty.
Yeah. So something that, I mean, honestly, it really just needs to be something that can probably be somewhat durable, and it just needs to walk outside your DZ and do fuck all else, because it doesn't have to dominate a zone with an HVT in it. It has to dominate a zone, which is usually going to be the one closest to your deployment zone.
Yeah.
So, like, I've seen people take diggers as it. They don't, which they can do. Yeah, they can do it. Like diggers, which is a really good example, because they get to use a free impetuous move to just move out of the DZ, go prone, and just sit there, because they're 2 wounds, armor 3, 15 points, whatever. Like, someone comes and gets them, sweet. I've got 2 wounds and a chain rifle. I'll take you
pretty nice. Karakuris.
Yeah.
Karakuris are solid.
Karakuris are great. Yeah, they're solid. There's a delicate balance between like having a unit that's simply just doing nothing for the whole game, like, but having a unit that's durable enough and also expensive enough to help dominate a zone. Yeah, it's an interesting balance to have. I think definitely thinking about what you would take as that master breach.
Morans as well on top of a building with a koala guarding them is really nice.
Yeah.
There's this. So the master breach is important because one, that's a pace that's going to win you a lot of points, and it's another way an opponent can deny you points. So one of the other things that's worth having is your list. You
Yeah.
can assassinate the Master Breacher. So CanCon, my assassin was my ninja. It spotlit one of the Myrmidons that was sitting on a roof. So the Myrmidon, Mim 6, smoke grenades, good in close combat, really hard to assassinate. So I spotlit him and then dropped a missile on him, and that denied my opponent like 2 or 3 points, and then that was really good. So maybe Peters and missile bots might be the way to go to deal with people's master breaches.
Yeah.
In this one, so who knows?
Yeah. No. And I think
And,
I think
and
it was
because it's
sort of
because
mentioned. So it was sort of
go
mentioned
ahead.
that the Master Breacher, like often the Master Breacher in a lot of other missions is just sort of like, oh, I got a Master Breacher, yay. And you can make it a gunfighter if you wanted to. This one, I think you're right, Kev, is that it's almost better off being some guy that's going to sit in a zone that you're going to make sure you dominate each round to get them 3 points out of him, and your entire rest of your game is going to be focused on grabbing the HVTs and pulling them back into a zone for the end of the game.
If you can, I don't know. I feel like I caution against moving the HVTs, unless they've just come out in a dick of a spot and you need to move them. I feel like you're better suited to just dominating
Renault.
for the 3 turns with the Master Breacher, and then and at the end of the game, because at the end of the game, third round, wherever those HVTs are, you just need to push those points into that zone. So
Yeah.
staging, the earlier it's funny because the earlier you reveal where the HVTs are, the earlier you can start to stage your models in the areas where they need to go. But if you don't reveal them, if you just kind of go, whatever, I'll reveal them till the end, you don't know where they are. And you might only have, I've had 2 games where there's just one HVT has been revealed for the whole game. And everyone just dog piles into that one quadrant at the end of the game, and it makes it for quite an interesting little
Wait, so
bloodbath. And also,
you only had 3 tech coffins opened?
well, only like 2 tech coffins open.
Oh.
I remember I played a game where I didn't open any of my tech. No, I think I opened. I can't remember. I think I opened both of my tech coffins, punched my opponent really hard. Then they spent the remaining his first turn, 2 turns, pushing me back and like trying to kill me to the point where it got to turn 3, or it might be the other way around, whichever way it was. Got to turn 3, and he was like, "Well, there's no point me pushing buttons because there's almost a 50-50 chance that I'm not even going to get my HVT out. I'll just move everything into the zone where your HVT is and try to outpoint you, get like a 7 point whatever it was win." Yeah, we finished the game with only 1 HVT revealed.
And
There's another interesting way of doing it.
I actually just had a thought because I was thinking about like often, especially when a HVT is important, I like Decapitation, for instance, is a good one. The HVT is important. I'm looking at the table trying to say, okay, when I'm picking deployment or something like that, where am I going to put my HVT to be safe? And I just thought about this because of kind of what Val said, is if you take a look and there's like a tech coffin that's behind a wall, it's really easy to defend from your side. All right, it'd be worth not touching that coffin and focusing on the other flank, because if you can get 1 HVT out on that flank, all right, that means that you can then open up that other coffin, all right, and hopefully get this HVT that's hard for your opponent to get to.
Yeah, but remember, they don't need to get to the HVT. You just need to get
No.
into the quadrant.
They
don't. The HVT means nothing, except unless you're threatening it. It just comes down to which quadrant is that HVT in. I can walk a millimeter into that or half an inch into that zone, and I'm dominating that zone. I don't care if I'm 18 inches away from the HVT, just so long as where the HVT is where I got to be.
But
you can move it. You can move it out into another quadrant, which does have its own merits, I think, because you can force them to. Yeah, you could grab the HVT and go, "Now I'm over here." Yeah, that's actually quite fun tactic. I quite like that.
Yeah, and I'm more just saying like that spot, like that covered tech coffin, is like this little like it's if the game goes generally the way it will, it's just this thing that you don't have to defend as hard, and you can focus on like dominating the zone across the table that has your enemy's HVT. It's easier to sort of clear out and make sure they're not stopping you from threatening it or something like that. It's sort of different to how I would normally consider like my deployment, is that I'd be looking at where the HVT is just a little bit differently, because I don't have any guarantee that it's going to be where I think it's going to be.
And you can still secure the HVT at the end of the game as well, because you have one classified. So that's so keep in mind where your enemy's HVT is important.
Yeah.
But in generally
That's a good point.
speaking, this is a mission that you can score 5 victory points on quite easily. So you push 2 buttons and you keep your you keep your Master Breach alive for 3 turns, dominating zone near you. That's 5 points. That's 5 tournament 5 OP, and that's at least 1 tournament point. Because yeah, so often this can be a high scoring game. In my experience
Yeah.
at least, but definitely having an assassin to stop that Master Breach of scoring, I think is very valuable.
And if you've got it, do not forget that you've got that extra inch on particular units. So
Yeah, exactly. Right.
if you
Yeah,
do have
that
like
extra
if your Master Breacher is some sort of gunfighter, remember that they're moving 6 inches, whatever it happens to be on their first move.
Whatever it is, yeah. And there is a limitation on who can be your Master Breacher as well, which is important to mention.
Yeah,
In that it can't be a regular, it cannot be a remote, and it has to start on the table as a model, not a marker.
Yeah.
You can make it an infiltrating ammo specialist, but it has to start the game on the table as a model. Which is a tactic, but it sometimes can be not the best.
Yeah,
If you're playing
it's
in,
one of those 5 head plays. You do that.
and if you're playing against JSA or somebody who's or a faction that you feel confidently going to be probably assassinating your Master Breacher, choose a Master Breacher with a template weapon, so at least you're trading for their assassin piece. So if they're going, if they have a Shinobu or an Wildbond, for example, or a Fide or a Speculo, it's unlikely you're going to be able to stop the assassination. So if at least it's going to come, at least make sure that you're trading for it and you're not giving it away for free.
I think if you can pick a unit that, especially just something that has like no wounding, incapacitation, shock immune, right, something like that, that might be there to be more of, I don't know. I'm thinking of like a hacker that might be just sitting there to use repeaters or something like that. That's a good piece to use because it's got a bit of resiliency, but you don't mind not having it do too much. Like I'm thinking from the guys of Bakunin, of how much do I want to make a moderator my Master Breacher in this particular thing? Is that a good idea or not? Because he's quite squishy, but at the same time, if he dies, it's not really a disadvantage as far as the rest of my army goes. I just lose out on points.
But you could do that because remember the Master Breacher is not chosen until after deployment. So I like to always have like a Master Breacher, a preferred Master Breacher, and a backup Master Breacher. So I've deployed, my opponent's going first. They counter deploy a Fide, right? And I'm going, oh well, that Fide is really close to what I was going to make my Master Breacher. I'm going to make it this guy over here. And it could just be a Gulam, right? It could
That's
be
an
like
excellent
anything.
point.
Yeah. So you still get to choose that after every model's gone down. So yeah, in your example, if you've got like 2 moderators or 3, preferably, I guess, because one of them's probably your lieutenant. Don't probably want to make your Master Breacher your lieutenant because it's just a double whammy if he gets killed.
Yeah,
but you can then kind of like
pump those numbers up. I have 4 moderators at this point.
4 moderators, and then just be like, pick one, and yeah, as long as it can get across the table before the end of your first round, then you score yourself a point or get out your DZ.
Yeah. All right, I think that's enough on cryogenics. We're going on to round 2, which is capture and protect.
Indeed, we are. So capture and protect. The scoring. So you get 1 classified objective. Now, I believe the classified objective does not use a HVT in this one from memory.
I think
That's correct.
Yeah.
So basically, it's going to be one that forces you to interact with your own troops or the enemy. So hopefully you get something easy like net undermines or on the way to capture your opponent's.
I'll point out and remind everybody that follow-up does not have the HVT tag, but is one of the ones you have to throw out because it is only possible with HVT on the field.
Perfect. Basically, at the end of each game round, have an enemy beacon capture. That's 2 points, so maximum of 6. At the end of the game, have an enemy beacon captured in your deployment zone, an extra 2 points, so that's bringing you up to 8. At the end of the game, have your beacon not captured by the enemy, 1 point. plus the classified, that brings you up to 10, so 10 possible points. So remember, one of the things with capturing the beacons, if you're in base-to-base contact with it, you count as capturing it. So in a hard-fought game where no one's touched the beacon and you're going last, getting to base with it will count as having control of it. The other thing is, so basically just being in base counts as having control of it. Special rules, decompression. So decompression zones, remember these are done before deployment with the person who picks deployment sort of going first. Now it is important in this mission because you can use these to either impede your enemy by putting them in, I guess, tight spots on the map where they're likely to go through to get to your objective, or you can put them right on your objective to make it harder if you don't think they have that many troops with terrain total. Or you can use it to your advantage. If you have lots of troops with terrain total, you can speed up your own, as well as using it to help break down link teams. Intel com card provisions. Classified objectives with a cog symbol give extra +1 objective point. Master Breacher gives them terrain 0G to help with the decompression zones. Scoring, pick up a beacon. Any unit can do this, so you don't need specialists with only having to spend a short skill attack. Baggage can hold 2, rest can only hold 1. You can pick up your own beacon. Really?
Yeah.
Capture beacon. No enemy units can be in contact with the beacon or the trooper with the beacon, so that's another way you can deny somebody scoring the points by getting in base-to-base
Yes,
contact with
I've
their
heard
model.
that happen a couple of times where
That was Rob Cantrell's
somebody's
degrading.
but I've heard a couple of other stories after he mentioned it where you just run into close combat and you just stop.
Stop. Yeah, that's pretty good. And
Yeah.
so wait, you can pick up your beacon from the get-go, or after they've dropped it, or after the enemy's.
You have
There's
to
no
expend
thing.
a short skill to get a hold of the beacon, right? To pick it up, you have to spend a short skill to do it.
You can do it on your own.
What do you mean?
No, you can't pick up your own beacon.
Yeah. I don't
No,
think so,
sorry,
yeah.
sorry, no.
You can pick up your own beacon. No, you cannot
Yeah, you
pick up
can't.
your own beacon.
I can't pick up your beacon.
It's
Sorry,
only
that's
your
the correction.
enemy. It's only an enemy beacon
Only
that you
enemy
can pick
beacon,
up
yeah.
because it says
That
the
makes
trooper
sense.
is in contact with a friendly trooper in a normal state that has an enemy beacon. Trooper is still in contact with an enemy beacon with no enemy troopers in contact with it. So no, you can be in contact with your own beacon. You never count as claiming it, and you can never pick it up. So yes, you can put a model right next to your own beacon, stop
That way.
anyone else from picking it up. Well, of course, that model goes into null state. So that in itself is not a bad idea. You could go like, here's my tag.
It's going to touch the beacon for the rest of the game.
Touch my own beacon. You go, I'll throw smoke on your tag, and you're like, I don't give a shit. You still can't pick up my beacon because I'm touching it.
That's really interesting. Okay.
That's kind of spicy. I kind of like that.
Really nasty.
Especially if the beacon happens to be placed on the 12-inch zone near some cover and your tag's a 55 mil base, you can just be like touching the beacon.
Well, I mean, if
if
the beacon is counted as like an actual like scenery piece, then it's cut.
Oh, it's not. It's always a
25
mil.
Right.
Always a 25 mil token. It's never on the table. It never represents anything on the table.
Right.
It's under the rules under ITS. A beacon is 25 mils, and is just a flat disc. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from making it something, I guess, but
yeah,
there is a page that says
I
it
suspect
tells
the
you the
tanker we're
size
going to
and
be
stuff.
using those orange little antennas. I suspect.
Well, I mean, technically you shouldn't be because a beacon is 25 mil diameter, so it will just be a coin on the table.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we could do that. I mean, we might as well do that. We've got a gazillion of these antennas. So,
But I guess but then that gives the cover to whatever's standing there, which is a big advantage. So that tag play becomes much more legitimate.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe I think
they
should stay as beacons. I think there's a reason. I think there's a reason.
Get some coins. Get some coins, old Aussie coins that are 25 mil, and just put them down on the table. That's probably a good point. But I mean, you can still do it if there's cover nearby and your base is big enough. But yeah, I get you.
But yeah. So what do we think is important in this mission?
Defense.
Yeah.
Defense. Defense. Yes.
I think generally the way I've seen this mission go is that you're always going to have to try and crack through someone's defense. Maybe you'll get lucky, you'll have the right tools to like get in, get out first turn. But and this is always sort of it's sort of just more of an other comment about this mission is that it capture and protect almost always what I see is you like the person who wins scores like there'll be a amount of scoring the classified objective, and then they'll literally score one game round with the beacon, one game with the beacon maybe in their deployment zone, and then their beacon's not captured. Because
like 5 points.
I think it's 6 with the classified, maybe.
Oh yeah, sure.
And often that's the way capture and protect goes, because it's very difficult to have a piece that's like both fast, resilient, and like hard enough to hit that they can get all the way through all of that defense, grab the beacon, and then bring it all the way back. Right? There's no forward deploying bikes. So yeah, defense is where it's at for this mission, right? Because the last thing you need is to try and, pull out this bike that's hiding somewhere.
It's definitely the kind of mission you don't want to bring a null deployment list to. You're like, hey, I've got my list that's, you can't get to me. And your opponent's just like, yeah, cool, great. I'll just grab your beacon and be home. Then will I? And they're like, oh, yeah, shit. So, yeah, you really have to think about arrows, even if they're not long range, just close in arrows, mines, hacking, jammers, TR bots, war bands, anything like that can. I know when I used to play Shaz, I used to like putting the tigers near it. That when my opponent got within 8 inches of them, they just get to like dodge into line of fire, and then now you have to deal with those. Like another order to kill them, and then move out. So
yeah,
that kind of thing.
there's 3 types of troops that can get this, right? So if it's a heavy infantry or a tag that's durable, right? So it's leveraging its durability to get to the console. Say it's willing to win the arrows or beat the arrows or take a hit just to grab the console and get out. It's hackable, so having a repeater or a hacker over watching the console, so that way it's not only you might pick it up, but it's at a threat of being disabled. If it's a warband, it's likely going to rely on its smoke. SV will stop it from getting there. If it's a camo troop, mine will stop that, right? Because all of a sudden it's got a dodge. Camo troops often 1 wound, with some exceptions. And if it has to go to mine or dodge against a mine, there's a huge risk to it. And yeah, it's just, yeah. So there's 3 things that so if you can have all 3, so you can have a mine, an MSV troop, and a hacker overwatching yours, you've done very well. It's going to make it very hard for the opponent to do it early until he
Did we want to just go through the did we go through the special rules?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Yeah, we did.
So I suppose,
but yeah,
I suppose there is a consideration. If you are lucky enough to get a cog and it's worth it, go for it. I think the only one you can do without the HVT is test run.
Run probably, and like I don't know the other ones.
Because you can't do retro engineering because there's no HVT.
No.
Is HVT.
Yeah, it's a dumb rule. Get rid of it, please, CB. Yeah. I mean, they will soon, right? Because the new classifier is coming out.
Well,
yeah,
we'll see.
No, they are. They are coming out.
What are the
I mean, as in we'll see if they get rid of the cog symbols.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. God, why?
What about the pitfalls of this mission?
Well, yeah, not like null deploying is is something that you should not do. Yep. Another pitfall is probably it's a hard one, right? It depends. Like investing in too much of either, investing in too much attack and not enough defense, or not enough defense and too much attack, like whatever that sort of thing is. That balance, striking the balance, because you can invest heavily in attack. If your attack fails, you've got no defense, then your opponent just be like, pop my HD ninja and just walk over to the thing and then spend all my orders coming back. So I think having a good balance of attack, defense, and also having something left in the tank for turn 3. Don't waste all of your don't waste all of your motorcycles on turn 1 trying to get to the thing. Until turn
That's
3, all of your opponents' big guns are gone. Their mines have already been detonated by your war bands or whatever they are. And just go for that last turn because you're not trying to get 10 points here because, as Jacob said, it's impossible. So like go for the 3, 4, 5 point win and take the W. Yeah, be patient.
I think that's a really good pitfall. So in turn 1, if you're going first, the temptation to go for it and grab it is huge, right?
Yeah, that's
When you're
exactly what I was
looking
about
at
to
it,
say.
you have to do the maths, and work it out in your head before going for it. Can you actually get it, or are you going to spend 8 orders and possibly not get it? Because if you spend 8 orders building up, not moving up your force, not improving your position, not doing damage to your opponent, but go for an attack run on the beacon and not get it turn 1 and spend 8 orders doing that, that's a huge pitfall. So if you're going to go for it, make sure you've accounted for everything your opponent's set up and make sure you can actually grab it, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna be halfway through your order expenditure and will realize you can't get it, and that's gonna hurt. The other thing I was gonna say is if it looks too easy, think about if the opponent's faction can take a hidden deployment troop.
I
So
was just about to
against,
think that as well from like an attacking point, from my point of view as a player. Yeah, definitely.
if it looks too easy, so I played against Tristan. The first time I played Tristan, maybe BCB, like maybe 2 BCBs ago. It was just too easy. I'm like, hold on, there's like hardly anything watching this. I'm just gonna get it, and that's when he revealed his Link sniper, and I'm like, you can't. So basically, yeah. So effectively, if it looks too good to be true, think about maybe there's a trap there. So those are just some things. And drop troops. Drop troops are amazing. Right? Drop troops are just amazing. Just fucking yeah, they're really good for. Well, it's the most efficient way to get to the beacon.
And also to assassinate the person carrying the beacon at the end. If you're going second, you've allowed them to get your beacon. Like,
Yeah,
cool. All I need to do is get it
have a
back.
counterattack.
Yeah, counterattack with the drop troop or the hidden deployment troop.
And one thing that what my game with Tristan that I played last week that sort of revealed is often the decompression zones are used sort of aggressively. It's sort of to try and stop your opponent from getting to you, which is what you should do in this mission as well. But there is also an advantage to putting the decompression zones like right in front of your beacon, because that's going that's going to either force them to, if they want to go straight on, going to slow them down. A bike would hate that, right? Because they're so big, they're often going to hit it.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to force them to maybe send their master breacher at you, if they're not lucky enough to have a bunch of 0G or terrain total. So in this case, I would say that your fair game to use, or like it's a fair idea to use the decompression zones defensively.
It can reduce your burst though, so just remember that. So if you have a lean team, it can reduce your burst.
It is a
that's
careful consideration for sure, right? There could be an argument to be made that maybe sort of put it to the entrance of like the area that your beacon is in, but I don't think it's wrong to put it just straight in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Val and I were having a chat before we started the second half of the episode, and something that I noted was it's really down to what your opponent's taking, and how well do you know their army. So if you know their the Ariadna have quite a lot of, or let's just say my faction Rama, right? We have a lot of terrain total faction. So if you put your decompression zones in front of your beacon, I'm like, sweet. Just gonna like ignore those, cop the -1 burst, and I'm now speeds, and I'm now movement 7 with my Namur or my Nahab. So, and if I make them the Master Breacher, my Mukhtar, he's now also movement 7 through the thing. So not always like it is. It depends on it depends on the faction your opponent's playing, and if you know, for example, they have. I'm just trying to think of an enemy faction. Attack, I think, might be a good one. They have a lot of their camo infiltrators are terrain total, I believe, maybe.
No,
Attack's got
there's not a lot of terrain attack.
Pavel
Okay.
and the scouts.
Yeah.
I think scouts have it.
Okay, so something like that, right? I'd be like, well, is that going to be possibly one of their carriers? Do I want to incentivize that, or do I want to try to avoid, try to stop their movement halfway up the board instead of like the movement that I want them when they're closest to it? So
The-
it's a consideration you will only know by knowing your opponent's faction, which
Yeah,
is
so
hard.
it's not half bad to just go through the app and be like, okay, what has terrain total? Because if you're staring at steel phalanx, there's a lot of characters in there with smoke and terrain total.
Yeah. And if you haven't brought a big enough gun to deal with something like a tag, and then your opponent makes their totem a fucking
Master Breacher.
Master Breacher, good luck. You've just put you just given this guy like keys to your beacon. Like it's now a
Yes.
7/4 movement tag. Well, just in that one zone. Which bear in mind, the decompression zone players do get this wrong. You only get that bonus movement if you start your movement inside that zone.
Yes.
Don't get it if you can't like pinball
Enter
through
it,
it. You have to
yeah.
you have to go like spending order. Right, I'm activating this unit. I'm already in the zone. Now I move the extra inch. You don't get it as soon as you touch it.
Yeah. The biggest advantage of terrain total, whatever, through the decompression zones is the fact that you don't have to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Yeah, that stopping is.
Yeah.
I think I played a game at the last tournament where we put them like far apart. So I had like Armin would move into it, stop, move out of it, stop, and then move. Like it just took so long. Like it just took 2 extra orders to move through what should have been like a full order move. So that was pretty smart if you can interspace them to really screw with your opponent.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see if anyone scores really highly on this. But
yeah, someone will always score highly, basically. Yeah. So
be the person who probably wins BCB.
person who faces I don't know, Trent with his Ulan.
Yeah.
Been easy.
All right. Move on to round 3.
Yeah, why not?
So round 3 is Frontline. So this one is somewhat more unique to the ones we've covered in the fact that it has 4 classified objectives. For the rest of the scoring, it's at the end of the game, dominate the nearest sector to your deployment zone. At the end of the game, dominate the central sector. And at the end of the game, dominate the furthest sector from your deployment zone. So when you take a look at the map board for Frontline, you've got your deployment zone, and then 8 inches from your deployment zone is your nearest zone. 8 inches from that is the middle, and then the next 8 inches is your opponent's closest zone, your furthest zone. Again, for the special rules, we've got Shazvasti and baggage. So Shazvasti need to be dead to not count. Baggage gives you extra 20 points. You have an Intel common rule again. Now, this is different from the other Intel common rules that we'll bring up, in which it allows you to add the points on the top right-hand corner of the card that you draw to a zone at the end of the game. Now, I think everybody has been playing it apparently wrong for however long it's ever existed. You do this when you draw your first classified card. So it's only that first classified card that can be turned into an Intel Comp 1. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Stop. No way. That is controversial.
Yeah, hold on.
Have a look at I got the ITS document. I'm double checking this one. That's crazy talk.
Josh says he's right, which if Josh says he's right, then he must be right. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Before the beginning of the game, I'm joking. Before the beginning of the game, but after choosing the first classified objective, player must inform the adversary if the card will be classified or the intel their roles. Before the beginning of the game, but after choosing the first.
Yeah, so it's like you've got the 2 cards. You pick which one you want to actually use, and then you say, is this going to be Intel Com or not? Right. So, but hold on. This simplifies the choice. If you don't pick a card that's at least, I would probably say in the 15 up, you just take the objective.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, like how else do you But I guess you just drop
The
four
idea
and
is you
you
have all
discard
4,
one,
and you
right?
can pick one and say, I'm gonna Intelcom this card.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Okay.
think, how
Yeah.
I've played it
That's
since forever.
massive.
Um,
Because often, because all the time, if you draw 4 cards, often one of them is going to be like 20 points.
yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, and often in those missions, you only have one classified, right? Or B2? I don't know. I can't think of the top of my head.
Yeah.
the only other
That's the
one
Maybe I
beauty of
hadn't
the
really
thing.
thought of before.
Ooh,
That's
Well,
huge.
there's
That's huge. That's a great
Supremacy is
pickup,
another
Jacob.
one. Yeah.
That's a great pickup, Jacob. I don't think anybody else would have picked that
Well,
up.
I'll have to
That's
thank
niche, mate.
I'll
Well
have
done.
to thank Hector for that one because he brought it to my attention
yeah.
during Tristan's game.
Yeah, that makes
Tristan's
sense.
tournament.
Only somebody as astute as Hector would pick that up.
Yeah.
No one else in the Victorian community
Right.
would have managed that.
The other special rule is you have a defensive turret and decompression zones. So the decompression zones here are a little less, probably a little less impactful on the game. But I mean, we'll get into it later when we talk about strategies for the actual mission. So we've got
more fucking decompression zones as well.
So
sorry, guys. Sorry, I know we hate them.
Yeah. So we talked about scoring again. We mentioned the zones. You've got the 8 inches closest to your deployment zone, 8 inches in the middle, 8 inches closest to your opponent's zone. So if you think about the center one is 4 inches on either side of the middle, if you want to think about that, and your classifieds, and that's it. So really simple scoring for this one. Just have the most points in particular zones. I'm just as far as like strategy goes, if you can get as many as on your first turn, get as many of your classifieds done as possible. It's 40% of the possible points, and normally you can sort of get take it or leave it as far as your classifieds are concerned, because you might have 1 or 2 or something like that, so you might do 1 and not do the other, or you might do none. And this one, I at least every turn do a classified. If you're forced to do it that way, do a classified every turn.
With classifieds in this one, so one, the HVT is going to be really important because you have 3 classifieds. As you take wounds, as you take damage throughout the game, your likelihood of being able to do all 3 or 4 classifieds will reduce, because as you'll take loss, you might lose specialists. So being aware of where your opponent's HVT is and being aware of what your HVT is, because your opponent's probably going to likely to try to capture HVT as well as like a backup plan. That's important. The other part of this is I think you should always take an Intelcom in this, because just getting a little bit of an upper hand, or putting like that little bit extra into the zone that you want to dominate, can really swing the game, because that middle zone is effectively what you're fighting for, right? Taking your opponent's zone away or having your zone lost only happens when like the game's gone one way.
And I think that's a pitfall sometimes of this mission, is don't neglect your own deployment zone. Your closest zone.
Yeah,
the number of times that people have lost the game because somebody at the very end of the turn just drops in, 30, high 30s, low 40s drop troop into their zone. Like, no roll, cost them nothing, and they go, that's it, that's all I'm putting in this zone.
Drops a 20-point card as well. That's 50 points, right? For
So I think in a lot of this, and some armies have it easier than others, looking at UCA, having 2 baggage bots that just sit in that zone is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think one of the pitfalls of this mission is going for the middle zone.
Really?
I think often people try to go for the middle, thinking that's how they win the game, and it's not. It's 2 points. Like if you can hold your own zone and take your opponent's zone, that's 5 points. Sorry, 4 points plus your classifieds. They can't win from that.
Yeah, there is definitely something to be said of, because I was thinking about this. If you abandon the middle and your own zone, and not saying you do, but like your own zone. If you take their zone and you do your classifieds and they don't, you win.
But yeah, I know. But I think you should always, like you say, you should always try and anchor your own zone with
Yeah.
baggage bots or whatever you
Yeah.
can, and then like push for turn 3 and just take their own zone, because it's remarkably difficult to know where your zone, the closest zone ends and the middle zone starts. So I've had games where people like think they're in their own zone, but they're actually in the middle, and they end up having like only a couple of things in their own zone, and you just like you say, walk a drop trip, 30-point drop trip on, add a 10 intel com card to that, and you've taken their zone.
Yeah, exactly.
They've gone, fuck, I didn't realize where the 8-inch zone was. So
Yeah.
my hot tip for that one is use your HVT to mark where the 20-inch line begins. So you can go, this is where my HVT is. Anything behind this is my closest zone. Anything in front of that is the other zone.
Your sorry, just the other pitfall that is easy. It's just to do in line with that is when you look at the scoring, you see your own zone is worth 1. Remember, it's worth 3 to your opponent,
Yeah,
right? So it's easy to
exactly.
be like,
That's right,
oh, it's only
yes.
worth 1,
Yeah.
right? But it's actually
So
worth
2
3
points
to your
to-
opponent.
Yeah,
A
it's
4-point swing.
Yeah, it is really
Everything.
interesting that it's worth nothing to you, but everything to your opponent.
Yeah,
What
so you really got
what
to make sure that's anchored.
Yeah, one good thing that I know Kev and I like to do all the time is there's still HVTs in this mission. They're really good at marking the end of your deployment zone, your zone.
Yeah,
Right,
the
so-
20-inch line. So normally people put them on the 16-inch line. I put mine on the 20 for this mission. But be careful. What you said, Val, is very true, and it did come up and bite me in a game before, where your HVT is now 4 inches closer to your opponent. So if your opponent has
True.
drawn 4 HVT classifieds or whatever,
which
you just go, thank you very much. I'll take 3
Jeez,
points,
yeah.
please, or 4
yeah,
points.
I had that
so-
against Hector. I had 3 HVT cards, and he put it right in my face. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing that first turn.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, so I think
that's really nice.
you I guess it's hard to plan for what classifieds you get. I think you should be planning like you said. I think for a broad range of specialists, similar to something like highly classified.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that you can have the best opportunity to
Yeah.
those 4 classifieds, because those 4 classifieds are they don't affect they can't be affected by your opponent.
Points
Like,
in the
if you
bag.
get
Yeah,
them,
that's right.
they're in the bag. You can at least say you're on the board. You've got some classifieds. But it's hard to plan for it. So you should also, your primary objective should also be mobile, because by being mobile you can usually do the objectives, the classified objectives, because you're in the area where you need to be. But ensure that you have a decent spread so that you can accomplish whatever it is that comes up. And like you say, if the HVT ones come up, often the HVT ones are like, oh, I'll just get rid of that one. And I think in this mission, it's really a good idea to do 4 of them.
Yeah, and don't forget that secure HVT is still like part of this mission. So if you're looking for an extra point somewhere at the end of the game, just rambling a guy to secure HVT, it's worth it. Still gets points in a particular section and all that sort of thing. I just took a quick look because I've been wanting to do this for a while. I actually took a look at all the cards that are above 10 points. And like obviously it depends on your army, but a couple of great cards for your intel com is hold on, sorry, no, great
Extreme
cards.
Prejudice?
Is Extreme Prejudice is annoyingly easy to get, but it could be. But Nano Espionage.
It's 20 points.
Nano Espionage,
Nobody wants
right?
to do that.
Is difficult to get because you have to be in close combat with a specialist, so it's very hard to kind of try and brick a specialist to do this without them punching you back in the face.
How many points is it?
Sorry.
How many
sorry.
points
So
is it?
that's 12.
Okay.
Depending on your army, Predator is 17 points if you've got no real melee ability.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's
True.
good.
Here's probably the best one, Rescue. 18 points.
Yeah.
Right, it's a really complicated one to do. And if you take a look at the rules for Casevac, if you shoot while in Casevac, you drop state. So it's actually really difficult to do Rescue.
That sucks. I didn't know that. Okay,
and,
Rescue
admittedly, it is you can get a bonus point off of it. Same with Predator. Um, the hacker ones are which the only one is really data scan. If you don't have a hacker, so
Yeah.
you're playing Ariadne or something, that's 14 points and 13 points for mapping. Which
Man, mapping's a dick of a mission as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
it can be difficult. It's not the worst in Frontline because you are trying to get down that end of the board. And if you can manage to
Yeah.
do it with a forward observer or a hacker, I'm looking at you, Meteor Zond.
Meteors.
It's not too bad, but
Meteor.
again, those are probably the ones that if
Oh,
you
meaty.
draw as your first card and you think, and the other card's maybe another one of these, just pick the one with the highest value and go for the intel comp.
Yeah, for sure.
There is a couple of other ones, but they're things like In Extremis Recovery, which is kind of easy to get. HVT Retro Engineering depends on the list. Test Run depends on the list. Extreme Prejudice, like I said, everybody can do it. It's not particularly hard.
How much is Test Run?
Test Run is 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then yeah, so as I'm saying, it's kind of low and it could be okay. HVT designation and telemetry, again, just depends on your list.
Sure.
Interesting.
So you can. It's more you go into the tournament thinking, oh, I'll get rid of these objectives, because I can't do them anyway, and they're worth a lot of points. It just simplifies your decision making.
True. That's true. Hey Kevin, it says
What
my
up?
name next to supplies, but since this is your favorite mission, do you want to read?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I'll read the mission that I want fired into the sun. Right. Supplies. Okay. So the scoring for it, there are 2 points for classifieds. At the end of the game, control a supply box. 2 objective points for each supply box. At the end of the game, control more supply boxes than your opponent. 1 objective point. At the end of the game, if your adversary does not control any supply boxes, 1 objective point. So that's basically 2, 4, 6 for controlling an objective box every game. 7, 8 for more and control any, and then 2 for classifieds. So the table is your standard 12-inch deployment zone with 3 boxes in the middle, 1 in the middle, and then 1 12 inches either side of it. Special rules: low gravity area. So all troopers possessing 0G or terrain total. Super jump special rule. We get a free secure sec debt. So that's the free CSU.
Dead.
Sec deck, bro. You got
Sick deck.
Yeah, so free CSU for your list that does not take up any additional slots. So you can have an 11 order combat group effectively. Intel Com, another Intel Com.
Yeah, this
These
is
things.
one I think you hate more than the other one.
Counter espionage. Oh yeah, this is the one that like misses you. Remember it. Classified objective fulfilled by a player that has the doctor or slosh. Oh yeah, the cross symbol, the one that looks like a red cross. The symbol will cancel and a classified objective fulfilled by your opposing player that has the targeted. So I think the reticle symbol.
Yes,
I don't know which ones those are,
Mm.
but no one ever remembers that exists. So you should also forget that too, because yeah.
It's sort
so
of
that's
some of the weirder missions. So there's like net undermining and shit like that.
Which one's net undermines? I'm assuming is the targeted one.
So it's pretty much the
So,
ones that
yeah.
are done by veterans, and like elite troops.
Interesting. That they get cancelled if you have done one with this like the doctoring one.
Yeah. So just quickly, net undermine, kidnapping, mapping, and I think that's and capture.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So 3 are pretty hard, 1's easy
Yeah.
out of those.
So supply boxes, they start on the table as tech coffins. Again, we usually in our area play them as S3 scenery items that a specialist can walk up to and boop them. If you are a doctor or a paramedic, you get an extra dice and +3 to your whip. If you successfully boop the snoot, then the tech coffin flies off somewhere into the ether and is replaced with a little token that you have now picked up that is the supply box. Can be picked up once it is out of this tech coffin. Anyone can pick them up, not just doctors and not just specialists. You control the supply box. You cannot be in a null state, and you cannot be in silhouette contact with an enemy model. So very similar to Protect in that vein. There are rules for supply boxes. Only one. You can only carry one. If you've got baggage, you can carry two. You can drop them at any point, but you cannot. That model cannot pass it to somebody else. That model has to come up and like retrieve it from the model who's carrying
Yep.
it. I think that's the order it happens
Yeah,
in, right?
yeah.
Now we had a discussion before about if you die while you're holding it, where does the thingo go? Often, often in the midst of battle, you're not necessarily moving with the token on you. You're just kind of like, you've moved off into the distance somewhere, and you're going, oh yeah, this thing's touching me. You die. Place it anywhere that was touching your silhouette.
I would
Yes.
probably
Any movement.
I'd
The way
probably
you way
I'd probably just say like anywhere on your movement path. In like
Oh no,
would have been
no, sorry.
base-
I mean, this only really is effective if you have a large base. Like if you're 55 mil base,
Hmm.
can that token, if you die, does that token have to go smack bang in the middle of where you died, or can it just be anywhere where your base was touching?
I think it'd just be on the edge of your base. Like just
Okay, so
touching
you can effectively manipulate where that thing is going
Yeah.
when you die.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
You
You
can
just
like
think-
push it around the corner a bit further.
Just think about it, your guy on the bike or whatever, he gets shot in his last little
Like,
death throes is to like sort of toss it forwards. Yeah.
Take the thing. Oh, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
Mm.
fair enough. Okay. It's a fairly standard mission. Most people have played. Everyone's probably played it. Get the box, hold the box, do a couple of classifieds. Who we think is important to take in this mission or to consider for this mission?
Smoke or MSV. The easiest way to
It
get
depends.
something in Infinity is basically avoid having to fight somebody for it. So smoke means you just get things without having to have a face to face. If you don't want your opponent doing that, you have MSV to deny them. So
I think in this particular mission, it's also really good to take a look at how you're like what side you picked or which side you've been forced to deploy on.
yeah.
And so sorry, if you get to
Approach.
pick deployment and do
Deployment
all that, is consider, can I touch this button in cover? And how difficult is it to approach this button? If you've got a side where you're like, it's like you can't see me touch the buttons. I can touch the button, I can approach the buttons without being seen, and I can take them away. Then take that side if you can.
The easier your approach is, the
The
better.
problem is you are probably going second in that instance, so you have to consider if you're wanting to be the attacker or the defender in the first or second, right? So like you said, if there's one side of the table that is really easy access to the buttons, you win the initiative roll, then you're going to want to take that side, but then you're going to have to consider, well, hang on, do I want to go first, or does my opponent want to go first? Do I have a means to stop them from taking the buttons? As in, like you said, Val, do I have MSV? Do I have mine layer in the midfield? Because smoke doesn't care about your mines; it'll still go
No, it
off.
doesn't. That's right. That's right.
So can you effectively stop them if you're hey, I've got easy access, but it's not going to matter if they've taken all the boxes away because you don't have an effective defense. Oh, you don't have anything standing up in the arrow, TR bots, mines, whatever it is.
Yeah. So this is very similar, like in sort of its basic strategy to capture and protect, where you don't want to not be trying to defend a box or two. I think for almost any army, without sort of potentially sacrificing all your good hit pieces, it's impossible to guard every single box. But if you can at least really guard up one and maybe half-ass the other one, at the very least, then you're slowing your opponent down. I think for the most part, there's a bit of acceptance that the person who goes first, if they've planned correctly, is going to probably get one box. And your entire game might be about just getting that one box off of him.
And that's important. If you're going first, you have to get one box.
Yeah.
Right? You have to get one box, because you force your opponent to get one box in his turn. You didn't get any boxes, your opponent can punch you in the nose, and they get a chance to punch you in the nose.
Yeah. It's
And yeah.
it's automatically
And-
slowing down their second turn.
But yeah,
I
because
think
all of a sudden you're got a point lead.
I
You're
think though,
threatening
if
to
you
score.
are going first and you can and you believe that you can punch them in the nose hard enough, I think getting a box can be secondary. You
Oh, you reckon?
you move if you move the line of scrimmage again, right? In front of the boxes, then your opponent has to spend their entire first turn
Yeah.
punching you back to get to the boxes, and then your second
true.
turn, you're like, all right, I'm gonna grab a box and run away. I admit that's probably not always the easiest option. It can be a case
Yeah.
of like, I'm gonna hit you really hard, then see if I can hold you off, and then I'm gonna use my my one skirmisher I've got in the midfield to just grab a box and run off in turn
Yeah.
2.
So
I think developing some of your troops for late game is important because
Yeah.
if turn one all you spend is doing grabbing a box and then your opponent grabs box, they're gonna have the last turn, right? And then you're not gonna have anything to reach out and hit them with because you've not developed anything
Mhm.
out of your deployment zone, so you've only got 2 turns.
yeah, I think if you can see it of like a path to the box that also takes you into a fight. I remember probably the last time I played Supplies, I had something like this where I was able to do a fight with like a Harris or something like that. Did the fight, touched one box, and and then Zoidberged my way back to as far as to my deployment zone as I can. I always like the visual of just going woo, 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 away with the
Something
objective. Um,
actually reminds me that's similar to the Capture and Protect. You are gonna go for one of the boxes, plan it out in your head before doing it and saying, hey, am I going to get this or am I going to be stopped halfway? Right? Is something going to go wrong and mean I'm going to spend 6 orders and get to the box but not be able to extract it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, again, think about TO troops and the other thing,
I think
obviously, another
I
tactic is
I
drop
think
troops.
well, what I was
Troops,
thinking is going to be truly dangerous in this mission is any perimeter weapons.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, like we said
Crazy
before.
koalas, fast pandas, I suppose. But yeah, anything that can, because a single crazy koala, I don't think a single crazy koala can defend both like two objectives, but it's pretty damn close. So I'm thinking
Yeah,
of like the Taskmaster carrying his crazy koalas, goes up, does a fight, maybe grabs a box, hides halfway in between the two, and drops his crazy koalas to defend the next box.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think pitfalls for this mission though are not planning or overestimating your
yeah,
ability to get a box or even 2 boxes.
yeah,
If you go out with the impression of going, I'm gonna get 2 boxes and put my opponent on the back foot, you don't accomplish that. You maybe grab one and then you flounder, can't get the second because they've revealed a hidden deployment sniper, or someone's revealed and crit you, and you've gone, oh no. You need to consider before the game starts, what are you going to do? Like, wait, what's your backup plan? Because there's nothing worse than half-arsing an attempt to get a second box and then just ending up in a position where your dick's out in the wind, you've got one box, but you've done you've made no material damage to your opponent, and now he just gets to hit you back with full force and probably claim that box that you just conveniently opened for him. Because that's another very important thing: is don't open a box if you don't think you can extract it
yeah,
safely.
yeah. I think just echoing that, you're gonna have essentially two exit plans: one where everything goes the way you want it, and one where things don't go with the way you want it. You need to know when those plans are going to be implemented. So, just for the sake of argument, you get this firefight, it's just not going your way. You have to know when you're going to break off that firefight and pull back the box or something like
Yeah.
that. I think the
I've, I've
worst.
I've played games with people before who've done that, who've gone like they've just tunnel visioned on getting this box,
Hmm,
and they've gotten stuck in a flash pulse bot. Rather than going, all right, abandon this idea, retreat back into a position, do a classified, they've gone, no, I will kill this flash
hmm,
pulse bot, and then I will go get the box. And
yeah,
they get to the box and they've got, oh, I've run out of
Oh,
orders. Now I'm standing here with the box in my hand in the midfield, and now it's your turn.
yeah,
And then I'm like, yes. So don't take a breath, make sure that you're not about to sink more orders into something that you cannot. I mean, it's a general infinity rule, but for supplies, it's very important because
Yeah.
because of the mission.
Well, it's
So
also
bear that in mind.
the worst thing you can do is leave even a controlled supply box, but especially an uncontrolled supply box, in a position where any Joe Blow can go pick it up, run off with it. Right?
Yes.
A Moran who's not a specialist or anything like that. Like, let's say the one
They
that's
are
not.
they are specialists.
I'm saying the non-specialist one. He just goes
Oh, they're
down.
not like
Yeah, he just goes down, grabs the thing, runs off. He's already there. That's the last thing you needed, because then he spends his turn, he gets another box, and now you're really on the back foot. Because you've already lost stuff, and he's got 2 boxes.
TO troops as well. Hidden deployment troops midfield.
that last turn grab on a box that no one's got into yet, because commonly there's one box that someone's like gone, oh whatever, we'll fight over that one later.
Another good one is if you've got any sort of infiltrator with things like a rocket launcher or a marksman ship weapon to. I've had this happen.
You're talking about helots? What are we talking about?
I mean, helots are an example. I can't. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is Thrasymedes, which is the character Thrakatai. But I'm sure there are other. I'm sure there are other ones. Sorry. Oh yeah, he has a light rocket launcher.
Why?
At the end of the game, if someone just manages to get like a supply box sort of back, but not fully hidden, the ability to pop out in a good spot and shoot that character to stop them controlling the supply box can turn the tide of the game. I had one where what's it called? Like a Yud bot, the helper bot, had the box. And so instead of trying to get another box for my turn, I was just like, I'll just get it out of your hands.
You could do that with any gun, not just a light rocket launcher. What's the light rocket launcher?
Just something that's got that good 24-inch range band, so like not a missile launcher or something like that, but also just to try and just like kill it. So it has to be like a nice killy gun.
Oh right, okay.
So something that gets rid of cover. Something that gets rid of.
Right. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Because what was I gonna say? I just forgotten. Val, did you have anything?
Nah, that's pretty much it. So TO troops, smoke,
TO troops.
MSV. Yeah.
We've forgotten to mention the fact that it's got the same bonuses as Cryogenics. So again, you're looking for efficient specialists that can withdraw a box. So yeah, 112s, Dynamo paramedics, Nightamon Tessa paramedic. Thing that's a paramedic that's speedy. A Mokhtar doctor is really good in that, and a Harris. And there's so many, like the Maggie pilot is a paramedic and is 6'4" move and can like just plonk her S8 armor 8 body in front of the body block the console while she jumps out the butt and grabs it and then gets back in and then runs away. It's it cannot be overstated how annoying it is when you're trying to extract a box on a 1 dice on a 13 and you keep rolling 15.
Oh yeah, this is the mission for it.
Just kill me now. Just take me away. I want to roll 2 dice on 18s, please. Or 17s. It would be really nice. So yeah, that's really important as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And I suppose the only other thing is speed does work in this. Again, your daimyo paramedics and stuff are great.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. And our last mission, Decapitation. Like I said, I think this is a great one to end the day with because it's relatively uncomplicated and relatively uncomplicated and relatively different, but also kind of easy on, like, if you've been put in Loss of Lieutenant in every single game leading up to this, well, you don't have to worry about it.
This is the one mission that we cannot participate in, guys. We have to take a step back.
Yeah, we just have to take the forfeit.
We just have to take a bye for this one.
So, scoring. No classified objectives. The first one is kill more army points than the adversary, gives you 3 objective points. kill the same number of lieutenants as your adversary gives you 2 objective points, but only if at least 1 lieutenant has been killed. Kill more lieutenants than your adversary is 3 objective points, and kill the designated target, which we'll get to in a second. So, special rules. The biggest one for this mission is reinforced tactical link. Right. In short, there's no loss of lieutenant. Your lieutenant dies. Right. When it comes to your turn, you automatically announce who's your new lieutenant, and you do not go into loss of lieutenant. So that's different from the normal rules where you go through a turn of being loss of lieutenant, and then the next turn you declare your lieutenant. But that also means that the lieutenant, your lieutenants are open information for the entire game. So even if they're in a marker state, they don't have to be outside of a marker state, but you still have to say this marker here is my lieutenant. Additionally, your lieutenant cannot be deployed off the table, so no hidden deployment and no lieutenant in combat drop, in reserve for combat dropping. No quarter, so this will not end if you get to retreat, which for anyone who's not played a lot, it's more than 75% of your army killed, or less than 25% of your army points left alive. No gravity zone, so again, terrain total 0G, super jump, +1 bonus to your movement speed, and there are multiple HVTs, so you put down 2 HVTs. I'm going to skip quickly to the scoring rule for these HVTs. Is both are counted as designated targets, so they count as being an enemy trooper for the sake of AROs, and they can react as a normal trooper, so they can dodge if you get too close to them without stealth. They can I think they can shoot back. I think they have a stun pistol.
They can shoot back, and they can CC back.
They can CC back, all that sort of thing. And so you get 2 points for killing each of them. So
they have a pretty woeful stat line though. So they have CC 6, BS 8, Phys 11, Whip 11, and Arm 1. Remember the Arm 1 because that can be important. And also the Phys 11 because they dodge better than most line troopers.
Some of them. So don't be too flippant with the designated target. I mean, they still can shoot, they still can dodge, but they're not a serious threat. The other part of the scoring rule is just the rules. They give clarity for what killing is. So a trooper. So the first thing is that a lieutenant is considered lost as soon as he goes into a null state. As soon as he's in a null state in your tactical phase, which is the beginning of your turn.
Yep.
Right, because the idea is if your lieutenant goes down and you revive him.
Yes.
On your turn,
yes,
it's
still
fine.
It still counts as a but it still counts as a kill if it's in my active turn. I've killed your lieutenant.
Yes.
In your turn, if you revive him, he's no longer your lieutenant. I've still got the kill. It's in the bag.
Yes, and he loses the lieutenant rule. So if you bring him back to life, he's just a Joe Blow at that point.
I feel like they added that paragraph from last season. I don't think they had that before. It was a bit ambiguous.
No, I think there was a whole bunch. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of what happens when they revive and all that sort of thing. Yes, and then troopers are considered killed at the end of the game if they've entered the dead state, or they are in a null state at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I suppose the other thing is anything that's not deployed on the table is also considered killed. So if you have a drop troop, drop the damn thing.
Actually, is that? I don't think that's true. Is it?
I think it is. I could be
so,
overstepping. I've been looking at too much Warhammer because that's how they do it. In
I feel like that was a rule, but I keep hearing that someone says, "Oh no, it doesn't count. It counts fine," or maybe just not for the end of the game. I don't know. We'll move on.
But yeah, that's it.
But Josh is about to correct me, because he's listening intently on the cast, so that's good.
You must be speaking to Hector.
Anyway, sorry. Moving on. What? Interrupt. Where were you?
That's it. That's the end of the. That's the rules. So it's pretty simple. When you see, I always take a look at some of these missions when you see army points left, army points killed. is the mission is either about surviving or it's about killing. Frostbite, I think, is about surviving, less so than killing. Right.
Yeah, it's
This
to
mission,
kill. It's to kill more. Yeah.
yeah. Well, but you can kind of look at it as like, oh, you like have more army points remaining, you just kill more of your opponent. But yeah, this one is like you fight, you try and kill your and push your opponent. You try and obviously get to the lieutenants. I suppose my question with this, and I don't really have a good answer to it, is it good to have, like, if you've got a lieutenant, is it worth having something like the what's it, the Demoness Observant, something that's tough, right, but it's already
so-
going to be obvious, or do you pick something that you would hide anyway and protect
So
it?
so yeah. So this is for this mission where it was like I was talking about, like the spice. This is like the pepper in your white soup of a mission lineup that we've created. It's not too spicy, but it gets a little bit of flavor. Is that this is probably the one mission where you're going to have to consider taking a specific list, maybe, because it's the one mission where you're going to have to go, well, I don't want to take my like two moderators, my decoy moderator or my decoy fusilier or whatever it is, because it's open information. Just giving your opponent a really easy kill if they want to take that lieutenant on. So yeah, like you said, you could be running Bakunin. This might be an opportunity to run the Demonist because it's 2 wounds, armor 3, got guard. Like, it'll tank a few hits. It's expensive, but it comes with the ability to survive just a random incursion by a Fide. Would kill a Fusilier dead pretty quickly. So I think, yeah, this is what consideration for your final game, and your second list, that you might go, well, let's build this list around keeping my lieutenant alive and also keeping my army points alive. So do I just take a really defensive list that hunkers down, forces you to basically trades up, forces you to take every fight in my favor, and then just wear you down to the point where you just kind of you just kind of throw yourself on my lines and you die. It's interesting because it doesn't really line up with any of the other missions. Like, Capture and Protect is maybe the closest example, but you still need to get the beacon. So it's interesting. I don't know how people are going to take this one.
Yeah, especially on the last mission. I'd love to actually have the last top table be recorded for this mission. It'd be really interesting. But well, that's a whole different conversation. But in regards to what's important, obviously the lieutenant. Often the mission is done without the lieutenant being killed, in my experience, because unless you really have an assassin piece, which I think you need an assassin piece, then the lieutenant can be really hard because having him on a rooftop surrounded by a bunch of
Well, I mean,
mines or a bunch of
Yeah.
templates.
we talk about assassin piece, but you're not necessarily just going to have one. Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to build for it. You have to build into your list to have an assassin piece.
Well,
And if you do have an assassin piece, it's got to have a terrain skill to get up buildings. That's where
yeah.
people hide.
But I'm thinking like someone taking Invincible Army. There's not really a piece that's that good at assassinating anything in that particular one. So you've got to, in that case, you've really got to like.
And
the Lu Jing.
And Lu Jing drop troop, yeah.
Lu Jing dropship, because
you
you
are
go
absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
my LT is in this fire team. You're like, cool. My Lu Jing is going to drop right on top of it.
Now
I mean,
you've just said that, and now I really don't want to take a moderator.
Yeah, right.
LT, because he's just going to drop and explode on him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Josh in our Patreon chat has corrected me. Yes, troopers that have not been deployed on the game table as a model or a marker at the end of the game will be considered killed. So thank you for clarifying that.
I'm the best.
And his opinion is he likes to take a shit LT and putting the LT on.
Why are we taking his opinion on board? Oh, he's a patron. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, he pays us. He pays us to do this podcast. So no, but he actually goes for the fact that, like, he just accepts the fact that you are going to kill my LT,
and just goes for the
my
2
job is
LT
to
kills.
Kill 2 of yours, which is kind of, because that in a standalone game that's not a good tactic, but in a 5-round format that's probably not a bad tactic, because it means you don't have to overly skew your list.
Yeah.
For this mission to have like the tanky LT.
It does also mean that you can take like a weak LT and like transfer it
Keep 'em
to
humble.
a tag or something that normally can't be an LT. So like let's say you're playing again, I'm just because I'm in Bakuna
Yeah.
mode. You're playing Bakuna and you lose your moderator and then you go, oh okay, it's gonna be my lizard.
Yeah, it's but still, you don't want to be giving your opponent. If you lose your LT, you've effectively given your opponent 3 points.
Yeah,
Unless you
no,
can
I
kill
Yeah.
one back, in
I,
which
I
case
Easy
you both
points
get 2
are the
points.
HVTs. The easy points are the
Yeah.
HVTs, right? That's the easy points.
4
Yeah.
Then
points.
you're fighting for more kills, and that's a fair fight. As soon as you do a lieutenant kill, that's a big swing. As soon as you lose lieutenant,
Yes.
or
yeah,
yeah, that's a
yeah,
I do think that this mission is all about keeping your shit alive and not overextending to try and kill more of their stuff, because the way it works is you'll just end up kind of being same, and at some point someone's just going to kill slightly more. So I
yeah.
like to go for like HVTs, LT, and then just making it as difficult as possible for your opponent to kill your stuff.
Mm.
Because yeah, the times I've played it before is all it takes is your opponent to slip up killing one of the designated targets, from a lucky stun pistol crit, or
Mhm.
they get hit by a mine or whatever it is, and you're in the lead, and you just pull back, make it as difficult for them as possible.
So some of the things that are useful, important in this mission that we've already mentioned, but drop troops are always really useful. Hail Mary attempts. You
Hmm?
have the ability to efficiently kill the HVTs. Efficiently.
yeah.
So your whole turn's not used just killing the HVTs. And when you are going for the kill of the HVT, do it in a way that's most guaranteed. So yeah, try and make sure like it can happen. So
What would you suggest using, like, in
so,
your army or whatever?
in TAC, I haven't really thought of it just yet, but to really guarantee the kill, I think Pavel would be maybe an overkill because then you're giving him up effectively.
I
But
think
Antipodes, because they're cheap and you don't care if they
antipodes,
die, they'll probably kill in
the
return.
they probably would be good. The
dog warrior.
Warriors is good as well, absolutely. Spec firing grenades onto them is nice and safe,
Um,
but yeah,
dep-
it's too
Well, that's
too
actually
low.
not a bad idea, because when they transform, they're Fizz 16, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah,
they're really.
Then they can
Um,
throw on 13s, which is pretty
yeah.
safe against the
yeah,
Fizz
and
of
Well,
eight.
it'll be Fizz 8 if because it'll be out of line of sight.
yeah
The other
Fizz 8
thing,
Yeah.
13s. Yeah.
I think another.
so
Sorry, I would say I
okay.
think another good one is just like depending on where they're positioned is just your Strelocks, right?
Yeah, Strelix is good
A
as well.
Strelok
Yeah,
mine layer with a shotgun just goes up, goes poof, there you go, and he can die. You don't really care.
yeah. The and having whatever piece that if you are going to play for the assassination, if you're going to try have something in your army that can assassinate the opponent's lieutenant, make sure that it's got a climbing skill, right, or a way to ascend buildings because that's usually where the opponent's going to hide them. And finally, the other thing for this mission is pitfall is if you're playing against Toha or nomads, they are likely to be able to kill your HVT without having to see them. So when you're deploying the HVT and thinking about where they're going to come at it from, if you're playing against Toha, they can potentially do it through a wall using that what's the name?
Fareware.
The Pharaoh bow. Who
The
has it?
Fareware, so the Takiel with end
Heal,
game.
yeah, take heal. Or if you're playing against nomads, they can picture, spotlight,
And
nuke.
then missile,
Right.
which is a lot of orders, admittedly.
It is.
Um,
It is a lot of orders, but it's
yeah.
very safe. And when you're deploying your HVT, just keep those pitfall in mind if that's what you're facing.
And I think that's another thing to be careful with your LT is I think your best LT. I mean, if you've got a non-heavy infantry or I should say non-hackable heavy infantry LT, that's worth taking. So I'm sort of thinking like Gray's or Mortimer's, or like what's his face, William Wallace. Um, like taking them is good. I think the one thing to really avoid is having a LT that's a an LT that's a hacker, an LT that's heavy infantry, because Oblivion will count as the lieutenant loss.
Yeah.
And if someone gets Oblivion onto you, because
But you're going count for points, will it? You'll isolate them.
is it an,
Doesn't count
You
for
have to kill
doesn't
them.
count for
No, you have
killing.
to kill them.
It just means
have to
that the
kill them.
lieutenant moves over.
Somewhere else. So you might actually make it better
one
worse for yourself.
one of the things.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
would
well, yeah,
would
you might.
Oblivion actually work?
Would work at would
No, I don't think so. I don't
must
think
be
it'd
placed
work
in
for
the game
scoring
table at the
points.
beginning. Oh, it doesn't work for scoring points, no. But no, if the player lacks a lieutenant during the tactical phase, which you would because that lieutenant is now in an isolated state, you would have to choose a new lieutenant, but you do not get a kill because it's not killed. Yeah. Like one of the things I was thinking of is like we're talking about like defensive lieutenants, like like you're talking about lieutenants. What about Avatar? Like, does this mission do you want to take an Avatar as your lieutenant in this mission, or does it just become all about killing the Avatar? But
Big
then that's
target.
kind of what that's also what every Avatar list is about. You just go, I kill the Avatar, that's my mission, even if it wasn't decap. So like I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that
Yeah,
has
you make it. Yeah.
you know, it's kind of not really that much of a difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's difficult to think about an active turn lieutenant. 'Cause you
Decap,
want to
yeah.
take it. Yeah.
I think
Or like an Asura or a Korontid or you could take an Anathematic's not a bad idea because you can just have it in a marker state.
yeah.
Even a vet Kazakh. Like you got to fight
The,
with
the,
it.
the problem the
Yeah.
problem with the vet Kazakh is you put your vet Kazakh in such danger when you use it to shoot. I probably say the best lieutenant that TAC has for decapitation is a scout.
Yeah, but fucking running a scout lieutenant. Ugh.
Isn't that like one SWC or something?
It's 0, but it's 29
Is
points
it
for
quite expensive?
I do it.
It's AP,
Well,
burst 2,
no.
29 points, burst 2.
You're not using it on anything. You're hiding the damn
No.
thing.
You know that the best LT for this mission is Shinobu, right? Take Shinobu, put her in the back corner of your PC in a marker state, and be like, "At me, bro."
I'm at it, bro. I'm at
Just
it.
just have it there, and people are like, "Oh, it's a ninja sniper," and you're like, "Nah, it's Shinobu."
Well, no, because you have to say that's my
Yeah,
that's my
that's
LT.
fine,
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
true.
obviously Kitsune.
That's true.
And they're like, "Oh, damn it, my Fide can't deal with her."
That's how you could double up, because you could double up if you were playing Shaz, because can't the Noctifer be a lieutenant?
Can be your LT. Yes,
Yeah.
it can.
So
Yeah,
you could
but then
do
you have
that
to
and
just
have
go,
him standing up. Oh, but
no. Because again, you have
can't
to
be the
tell
missile
you have
launcher.
to say you have
Yeah.
to say that's my LT, and then they're like, "Oh, it's a
Yeah.
min -6 marker. It's your Noctiver. Cool."
I'm trying to big brain
Yeah.
it, and it's just not working.
No, you can't because you have to say what it is.
Yeah.
You can't hide it with decoy or nothing like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I do think that the trick for me in this mission is to use as few pieces to kill as many of their pieces as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
try it up. Try it up.
you know, the days, Kitsune, Brand, De Castro, walking on with drop troops, something that can get there efficiently, kill what they've got, and then die. And also have something that can kill the HVT while you are in your DZ going, I'm surrounded by mines and things. So it's kind of like a capture and protect mission, but without the capture, just the protect.
Yeah.
Just the protect. Just the
which
protect.
which I think changes a little bit. Where I think in decapitation going second, so long as you've got the ability with like mines or hacking of repeaters and that sort of thing, a null deploy to sort of work in this one, where you've got to try and force your opponent to spend as many orders trying to get to anything that's valuable. And hopefully in them trying to do that, they've sent something valuable for you to just jump on top of and then push out.
Yeah, it's very easy to score in this mission. Oh, sorry, very very easy to understand the scoring in this mission. So you should be able to keep on top of where you're at with army points. Because army points is the only thing you need to track. Oh, sorry, and designate targets. But you assume that you both kill. You assume that you both kill both of those. You're both on 4 all, and it's a case of like who can kill more army points. And if lieutenants happen, then bonus. Actually, if lieutenants happen, then you've probably won the game. Unless you then hemorrhage, you hemorrhage a lot of troops
I mean,
in the aftermath.
if you
Liver
can manage,
evashing your HVTs is also something we haven't discussed. Getting one HVT out.
Oh yeah, you can do that,
That's
right? Yeah, you
legit.
can
That's
capture your
legit.
one.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
civi vacuing them, yeah.
Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah, so if you can put your HVT in like a really defensive position, and like have them struggle for those 2 points, it's worth it if you can do it. But that's
It's 4 points in total, right? Yeah, yeah.
Oh well, I was figuring you could only probably because if you put both of them in like the single defensive position, then it's worth it to spend the time to get rid of them. But if you can spend
Yeah,
one and deny 2 points, but that's really table dependent. If you've got like a nice nook or
I
something to hide them
remember
in.
I did that in my last round at ResCon against oh god, I've forgotten who it was now. I feel like a terrible person. Um I was going second. He was playing an avatar list. He put both of my HVTs down in the same spot. Both my designated targets down like almost right next to each other. And he had nothing really there, but I was like, okay, there's gonna be a speculo. Speculo's gonna come. He deployed the speculo right next to my HVTs, and I'm like, cool. I counter deploy with my speculo mine layer right next to your speculo. He goes, oh, okay. So he goes and he shoots his shot, reveals, he puts down 2 templates on both my HVTs, both pass their dodge. Speculo dies to the mine, and he's like, nah, I've got nothing now. When it was
Oh,
risky because I could have lost both my HVTs in one order, but I was like, roll the dice, baby. Um, it was also a very open table, and I had nowhere else to put my HVTs that the avatar couldn't just have gone
Bang
blam.
bang, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the other issue.
Right, well that
Right.
is all of the missions. So I think that we want to sort of cap off this discussion with how we go about sort of approaching this tournament as far as like list building goes, sort of like, and especially I think the biggest thing that always comes in with these bigger tournaments is what's the mindset we're going to use to split our two lists.
that is a big one.
I suppose, Kevin, you can just talk theoreticals because you're actually TOing.
Sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, why don't we go like kind of round table here? With one of you starting, just what your thoughts are.
Let's start with probably always the most controversial, Val.
So
Mhm.
the other thing I wanted to bring up as well, what's the most important mission to build for? So what mission do you really want to do well?
Yeah.
So game 1, game
Well,
5, game 3.
that could be the way
Okay.
like you
Yep.
do your split is like I want to focus on this mission and then I'll take those pieces into this other missions.
I haven't really
Val?
decided. The easiest way would probably be, like Kevin said, lining up the specialist bonuses. That's one way to do it, right? So, for example, Cryogenics gives you bonuses for doctors, and so does suppliers. So you could do it that way. For me, I'm probably leaning Cryogenics. Cryogenics supplies and decap, because each one of those missions rewards an assassin, somebody who can get there and kill either a box carrier, a lieutenant, HVT, or a data master breacher. So that's one way you could build, but I think the more obvious way is probably lining up the bonuses.
Okay. Would you put capture and where would you put capture and protect in your
Fuck, capture and
split?
protect. Yeah, no. So the capture and protect would be the wild card. Either list should be able to probably do it. Um,
Okay.
so capture and protect. You probably want something quick in capture and protect and frontline, because you want to be able to get across the board pretty quick. To kind of secure a zone. So be that a drop troop, be that motorbike. Yeah, so I guess that kind of works, but there's not. Yeah, capture protect doesn't really synergize with anything other than maybe decap, because you want to defend. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, I don't. Yeah, not too sure with capture and protect. So, what about you
What about
guys?
you, Jacob?
I'm thinking like I'm gonna love so many of the armies in Infinity that every time I think about taking Big Shannon, I'm just like, yeah, but, and then I think about another army. I think especially because of the inclusion of Decapitation, and the unique sort of weakness of Nomads of not having, uh, not having chain of command, does sort of make
Not that
it.
it matters. Not that it matters in Oh, sorry, but yeah,
Yeah,
in
but
other
it's for
missions.
it's for the other missions. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna focus on making one list for decap, um, which for me potentially the lieutenant of choice is the Custodia because it can go into a marker
Oh,
state.
oh, interesting. Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
it is a bit
That can
vulnerable
be your
because it's
LT
a
as well.
sorry.
Can be your LT as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Uh,
Did not know that.
or potentially, I mean, admittedly, kind of go with what Josh is saying and just YOLO it with the moderator and hope that my opponent doesn't just go and shove like their fist down his throat. We'll see, but that will probably also be like my um, frontline list,
Hmm.
and maybe like my supplies list. So it'll be my sort of my more aggressive fighty list. Whereas
What's your split again?
so it'd probably
Cap
be
supplies.
decap, supplies, and frontline, and
Hmm?
then it'll be cryogenics and capture and protect because that one I can make a more defensive list, and there's a lot less focus on like technically like fighting in those two particular ones, and it's a little bit more about like grabbing an objective, pressing buttons, that sort of thing.
That's
Mhm.
interesting. I did not think about that split.
Which well, I mean, obviously supplies could sort of go to both. Like that, I suppose.
Hmm.
As far as like Val was saying, capture and protect is his wild card. I'd probably say supplies is mine.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, I'm just theorizing here for myself, but yeah, I mean, cryogenics and supplies go together pretty well
Yep.
with a specialist assortment. I would then also put frontline into that same mix because I need specialists for those two missions, so therefore frontline just kind of fits in there. There's domination in cryogenics and there's domination in frontline, so they both work. Got baggage. And then the other two missions are capture and protect and decap because neither of them need any specialists whatsoever. Well, I mean, one classified, sure, but they don't need any specialists. They rely heavily on being able to move up the table, do the thing being capture the beacon or kill your LT. And then the other part of it is defending your LT and defending your beacon. So if I've got a list that has, say, a few mine layers in it, jammer, or if playing hack Islam, I've got some mutts that can sit around my LT to make your life difficult. I can run some Liberto mine layer around the capture the beacon, also around my own LT. I can put bikers with smoke to go grab the button. I've got Fide to stab your LT. Um, and also throw smoke on the beacon and run it back. So they
Yeah.
kind of they work very well together, and there's not too much. Yeah, there's not too many conflicts. The biggest conflict is who I choose as my LT because I'm capture and protect. It's just probably two Gulams. But if it's decapitation, do I go for something like Saladin and make it a bit more durable specialist? That's kind of obvious. Or do I go for a Barid, because I don't know, at least I can use the LT order.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
I mean,
Um,
I mean,
I probably just going to go with the two Gulams option and just try and defend the one that is the Gulam is the right one.
this might be a unique thing to Hak Islam because I don't know of any other profile with this. I suppose Tohai get it as well. But LTs with regeneration because they don't count in like because you can
Oh,
resurrect them,
right. Yes, in
Yeah.
the
and
state
you
space.
wouldn't have to choose
So
a new lieutenant, so it doesn't count as
yes.
the kill.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's a reason there to
So
take the Zayd and Lieutenant.
I think one of my
Oh.
favorite. I thought one of my favorite ones was the Asawira Doctor.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's a weird lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
sorry,
lieutenant.
which one's the
Yeah.
Year lieutenant.
lieutenant? He's just a lieutenant, isn't he?
He's just the lieutenant. Well, he can the lieutenant AP Spitfire. could be a good one because
Oh,
he goes
yes.
down. You've used them actively. You don't have lost the lieutenant. They go down, revive on a 14. They don't get the point. You carry on your way. That actually has some merit. I like the
Yep.
sound of that.
Yeah.
You can do that. Yeah,
Um,
I could do that.
yeah, that's I don't. Yeah, there's a couple of regenerating
Risky,
lieutenants
but
around.
if you don't use the LT, even if you just keep them in the back line or use them for a third turn push or whatever, then yeah, yeah. No, you've maybe think about that. That's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
Um, I,
What
sup- I,
else?
I suppose the only thing is like maybe looking at your opponent. I'm just thinking of Pano, like sort of having a list that can sort of just flat out deny any sort of shooting at all. So if I'm playing,
Well, what?
um,
Well, maybe. Sorry, go ahead.
oh sorry, that was really all I was gonna say is like maybe have a list to deal with somebody who's really good defensively and someone who's really good aggressively. That's
Well,
about it.
I'd be thinking about. I mean, we're talking about BCB right here, right? So I'd be thinking about what armies might we likely see at BCB, right? Because
Mm,
if you can figure out what armies might be dominant or might be useful, then you can think of ways to counter them. So if you think that combined army are going to be really
fucking
good in this event, then
Morats.
you might start thinking about that. I don't know, like what seriously, like out of this list, is there any particular army that jumps out at you that might do really well in this lineup? I personally would be looking at things like Ariadna and Cosmoflot, mostly because they have access to decent paramedics, they have access to lots of smoke, they have lots of speed, aggression, durability, and they can do all 5 missions.
Yeah, I
Mm.
don't disagree with that.
The game's perfectly balanced. Every faction can do well in it. Sorry,
Um,
but no, I think Morat's in a really good place at the moment.
And they do can they do this lineup particularly
Yeah,
better than anybody else?
yeah, they got a
I
lot
think
of
they can do
good,
it.
like, kind of
Raziad zero
essential
G. They got
uh,
Raziad zero G smoke
paramedics.
to grab, capture, and protect. They've got MSV hackers for to defend against that. Supplies. They don't have any midfields. People to. That's probably gonna be their weakest. But in terms of cryogenics, they got a super
Got the
specialist that
Rendak.
deploys forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Rendak.
I was about to say, what's their? I think you did. If you mentioned it before, it's only because I can't remember the freaking names of everything. What's their deployment? Their drop trip called?
The
Rajat.
Yeah, the
Raziad. Yeah, the
Razia.
Raziad.
Right, that
Yeah.
in decap being able to drop in the
Yeah,
deployment zone.
exactly.
So yeah,
Killed,
yeah,
And
killed
and
that.
in decap you've got Kornak, who's like a bit of a
He's
tank,
alright.
and yeah.
mm,
Yeah, he's not too
Well, the thing
tanky,
is,
but
the thing is, in Morats though, you don't have to worry about taking a specific decap list because you've got veteran for days anyway, so you don't care about running a aggressive lieutenant
yeah,
anyway.
it's that
So
sort of
it's
thing
fine.
of they like you don't. It's more. It's not so much for decap, but for every other game, you can have the most
Yes,
obvious
yeah, yeah,
lieutenant
yeah,
in the world, and you don't care.
yeah. That's a
So
good
yeah,
point.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know really, but NCA has got a lot of veteran in it with the bolts. Anything with a lot of veteran in it could be okay.
I think JSA could actually do quite well in this one because they've got speed, they've got smoke, they've got ability
they
to
have those fast
assassinate.
paces. They have a lot of fast.
Yeah.
They've got very durable, very cheap lieutenants that can just sit back and be like,
Mm.
wounds armor 3 with chain rifles. They've got good I don't know if it's a paramedic, but they've got good specialists, right? That can get good supply boxes, get
Yeah.
to cryogenics.
I don't think they
Yeah.
quite. I don't think they quite have like the doctor paramedic presence, but
No, you're right. They don't. Yeah.
speed for sure. Like the what's if it's the Karoshi rider as well as the just the
Rider,
Aragotos.
And they've got
Would get in there.
Yojimbo as well.
Jimbo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
and
mean,
they've
I think Hackaslam are pretty good for this one because of the paramedic doctor classifieds,
yeah,
really, right?
and
Sorry, the bonuses.
I think that for a lot of these ones, the Asawira makes a brilliant Master Breacher, because of the extra speed that he gets. So the ability to touch buttons on a good whip, he's already getting all the bonuses. You're unlikely to fail opening up a box or whatever. And he's able to get there and get back. He's got often 7-inch movement when he becomes the Master Breacher.
So what are the sort of top 3 or 5 things that you considering in lists? Like what? Oh, so for example, if I was building a list, 2 lists for this, I'd be thinking about where are my doctor paramedics,
Yeah.
Where are my 6'2" or 6'4" movement specialists or faster? Do I have hidden deployment or some kind of superior deployment models that can come out on turn 3 to grab a supply box, push a button in cryogenics, or be a general nuisance for things like capture and protect? I can reveal a hidden deployment Tuareg and be like, hacking you, you're stuck. And then other things like, do I see, this is one thing I was thinking earlier on, is do I have suitable enough gun that can force my opponent to keep their heads down so I can accomplish my mission? So in things like supplies, in capture and protect, and even in decapitation, do I have a gun? Do you have a big enough gun that makes my opponent go, I think I'll, because in two of the missions at least, you kind of want to keep your head up. If you can force your opponent to put their head down, then you kind of start to win the mission.
Yeah. I think I'm going to think of
Every list kind of needs that, to be fair.
That's
like
yeah, it's true, but like I don't think about that in my missions because I look at asymmetric plays, but I am thinking about like, essentially what I'm thinking about is in my lists, if I was playing, I'd have a TR bot in pretty much all of my lists.
Solid.
Just to be something that my opponent has to deal with
yeah.
before they can accomplish the mission.
I think I'm gonna mostly consider it's like midfield defense, or at least like a forward deployment sort of defense, and if not, like including some sort of speed into my list, including things that can effectively slow down my opponent. So either a really hard ARO piece, one of the ones just because I used it recently, is a linked Moira HMG. Is just a nightmare to get rid of.
Not
Yeah,
more of a nightmare than a linked Moira sniper. I feel like that would be a better aero piece than a HMG.
It depends on ranges. I honestly I take both. One covers a really long range corridor. One defense more close up.
Yeah, cool.
Um,
I mean, I'm just glad that you're taking them. I like to hear this. I like to hear the sound of Moiras at the table.
honestly, like they are, like in my mind, giving they're giving the Riot Girls a run for their money. Just because the Riot Girls, like each profile very one dimensional. Anyway, yeah. So like I think this one is like the ability to defend and slow down your opponent, and making sure that probably both lists have at least a doctor, an engineer, and either a hacker or a forward observer, or multiples of those sorts of profiles. With obviously, if a hacker's a better choice than a forward observer because it can do all of them. But of course, with like TAC and that sort of thing, you don't have a choice. You just got to take the forward observers.
For me, a good lieutenant, a good master breacher, and an assassin piece. Those are the three things I'm focused on. Yeah, so those are the three things I'm gonna. I'm definitely have speed. I'm Ariadna. I've got dog warriors and antipodes. So one of the lists will have probably one or the other or both.
I'm
but
Bakunin.
yes,
I'm slow. I'm all medium infantry. Can't move very fast.
Yeah. Who's in the running if you're a master breacher? I guess it's hard, right?
it's really hard with TAC. That's one of the hardest things. So it's probably almost that Kazakh is pretty much the only thing that can be. That's any good. Ratnik, you could. So I might fuck around with the Ratnik Harris. This weekend. This Thursday. Sorry. Like Harmy Dog Warriors, be Frontovics, Voronin, Flying Kazakhs, Vet Kazakhs. Pretty rough. A bit hard.
Yeah, it's a bit hard.
Yeah. I tend to just put it on my Taskmaster most of the time.
Yeah.
Especially because his base is so big, it helps that he doesn't have to stop at decompression zones and stuff. Being 5 inches helps. It can.
Yeah, it does.
If I'm running like 2 Harrises, it can go on sort of like sometimes the leader of the Harris. So if I'm like running the Penitent Observant, it could go on that. Or if I'm running like, let's say, Kusanagi or something like that, it could go on her. But often it goes into the the Taskmaster because it's just a good profile. Like especially the heavy rocket launcher, it's just such a good profile to put it on. He's going to be doing stuff for cryogenics. I'm not so sure. I might end up just putting it on a random moderator to do what we were talking about, which is I just dominate a zone and have him make sure he's in it.
Walk in, yeah.
But in missions where it doesn't matter who my master breacher is, just that I get to pick one, it's probably the Taskmaster.
Something to give you the extra bonus movement if you yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Or you know,
because there is decompression. There is in this lineup. There are 2 missions with decompression zones.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
There's 1 mission with the +1 movement. 1 mission with the
I think there's
super jump.
I think there's 2 with.
So decap gets decap gets +1 movement. Supplies gets the super jump. The frontline gets decompression zones, and protect these decompression zones, and then the first mission, which is Cryogenics, gets the +1 movement. Oh yeah, so every
there's
mission
2,
has
yeah.
some kind of movement. Every mission has some kind of movement bonus or
Yeah.
not bonus, depending on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
Either 2 with the decompression zones, 2 with the +1 movement, and 1 with super jump. That was not intentional, but that's kind of fun. So take your definitely if you've got initially that's a new consideration. Look for models with terrain skills or terrain total or terrain 0G, and then really consider that because that extra movement can be so, and even on super jump on some things so nice.
Yeah. So other than cryogenics, I would probably always put it on one of my big heavy infantry dudes just to help him move around the board.
I may have to jump off soon. Do you guys have much more to say, or because I'm happy to leave it to you guys, or you guys want to do the draw?
Well, hang on for one quick thing. I promised I wouldn't, Kevin. I would not forget this. Right, for everybody who's been listening, who's listening live or listening on the podcast, we're finally going to do it. We're going to do the draw. All right, so let's go do it.
Do you want to cast it?
I'm just about to. You've read my mind.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Boom. Share the
this is
screen.
Very exciting.
Okay, go live. Alrighty. Okay, so we're just going to do it like in alphabetical order. So the first one, so the models that we're going to raffle off in alphabetical order. So the first one is going to be the Aya.
So before you push that button, we have, I think, was it 30 something patrons on the chat. So thank you all to our patrons for supporting us and giving us your money so we can continue doing this awesome podcast.
We have 33.
This is all for you guys. So yeah, really big thanks to everyone who has supported the show over the years.
Yeah. So
nice.
Okay, so first one for the painted Aya, done by Danny Paints.
Danny Paints.
Lovely model, beautiful freehand on the cape. I feel like I need a drum roll here, guys.
Okay.
And our winner is Melbourne Lewis.
Get out.
Oh, it's fixed. This is fixed.
Yeah. Gives us some postage, so yeah, that is fixed.
So congratulations, Lewis. Thank you for your support. Thank you, everybody, for your support. You will receive a nice, I wouldn't say shiny, because it's a beautiful matte model Aya.
Very well painted, Lewis. You'll enjoy it. You can add it to your white banner list as your HVT or something.
Okay, so now for the big girl. The painted Marut, painted up by Aiden of Wendigo Wet Palette. All right, here we go.
Lewis get removed from the
yes, he
draw?
did.
Okay, good. And oh no! Revulette. That's another Melbourne local who wins that one. So congratulations. We have just now don't have to send either model to anywhere else in the world. So
that's so rough. Oh, at least we recorded it so there's no one can say anything other than
Wheel of Names has spoken. The Wheel of Names has spoken. So thank you. Congratulations to all of our winners.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, guys.
And so, thank you for listening to another episode of Loss of Lieutenant. I've been your host,
Lieutenant.
Jacob.
Been Val.
I've been Kevin.
Have a good night.
Hey guys.
He
Dudes, I gotta get to bed. I got an early day.